in those long nights when the city has fallen asleep, but your mind refuses to rest. You may have wondered why so many conflicting voices rise within you. Old anxieties return, unfinished memories linger, and nameless questions drift in the dark, all weaving into a restless current that makes stillness difficult to find. Modern life surrounds us with endless stimulation, yet leaves us with so little space to truly listen to ourselves. And so the night becomes the only moment when we can face the shadows of our own inner world. Gently, without judgment, simply observing. In the next 3 hours, I will guide you through a slow and contemplative journey, where hidden corners of the psyche are retold in a soft whisper, like an invitation to step into the quiet chambers of your inner being. There, you may discover that even the darkest mechanisms of the mind can become gateways to understanding and healing. Just as Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Now lie down, release the tension in your shoulders, and let the journey begin. It may sound like a dry term from behavioral psychology, yet it is, in fact, one of the most intricate traps the human mind has ever fallen into. A rhythm of intermittent reward and punishment, just enough to keep us staying, just enough to make it impossible to walk away. And strangely, it is the gaps, the sudden silences, the moments when someone turns cold, then warm, affectionate, then indifferent, that become the very thing our hearts cling to most intensely. Tonight, as you listen to these words in the stillness of your room, allow yourself to reflect on a simple question. Why do the incomplete things captivate us so deeply? Why does the ambiguity of waiting follow us like a familiar shadow? And why does the modern mind, surrounded by oceans of information and connection, become so easily dependent on flickering signals like these? Perhaps, as Carl Jung wrote in Psychology and Religion, man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. Our task, then, is to recognize what is quietly manipulating us, even the emotional loops we mistake for love or hope, when they are merely the biological responses of a brain seeking something familiar. When the brain learns to crave the occasional, intermittent reinforcement works like this. When a behavior is rewarded irregularly, the brain clings not to the reward itself, but to the possibility of receiving it. What keeps us staying is not love, but the hope of love, not care, but the chance of being cared for at any unexpected moment. Just like how people check their phones repeatedly, waiting for a notification, just like how someone remains in a toxic relationship because sometimes they're still very sweet. Just like how an employee endures a harmful environment simply because a rare compliment appears now and then. It is not weakness, it is a brain searching for certainty in a world full of uncertainty. In love, intermittent reinforcement becomes fertile ground for emotional dependence. A person may be cold for days, then unexpectedly gentle, one night causing your heart to melt. Those rare moments glow like sparks in the darkness. Small, yet enough for you to keep going, enough for you to believe that warmth will return. Nietzsche once wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "Love brings to light those qualities which lie hidden in the lover." Yet he did not say that these flashes of light can also conceal shadows. Our brains cannot distinguish true affection from addictive signaling. They only learn that sometimes there is a reward, and so we stay. In the digital age, intermittent reinforcement has become the native language of every online platform. Each time you open an app, you do not know whether you will receive a notification, a like, or a hit of something stimulating. This very uncertainty triggers the strongest dopamine release. That is why people scroll endlessly. That is why platforms design irregular notifications. That is why we lose sleep, not because we are tired, but because the mind is caught in expectation. William James wrote in The Principles of Psychology, "My experience is what I agree to attend to. When attention is pulled apart again and again, the experience of living shatters into fragments, and we lose the inner wholeness that once anchored us." The most painful truth about intermittent reinforcement is that it teaches us to hope for what is never guaranteed. Hope becomes a rope that binds us, even as it hurts us. We think we are patient, yet we are merely conditioned. We think we love deeply, yet we are only addicted to the feeling of being chosen in rare, fleeting moments. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality. We hurt not because of what is happening, but because the mind keeps weaving stories of maybe they will be better, maybe things will change." Intermittent reinforcement makes us live by possibility rather than truth. And healing begins the moment we pause to observe. When you step back and see this mechanism clearly, you understand. You are not weak. You are not unworthy. You are not addicted to someone. You are simply operating in the way the human brain was wired to survive. The beauty lies here. Awareness breaks chains, and once you see the loop, you can no longer be trapped in it the way you were before. Now, in the quiet darkness of the night, breathe a little slower. Let your mind soften, judge nothing, resist nothing. Just observe, like watching ripples moving gently across the surface of a still lake. If you feel drawn to someone simply because they are hot and cold, remember, that is not love. It is just an erratic dopamine rhythm. If you feel unable to leave an environment that drains you, know that you are clinging to the possibility of recognition, not the reality of it. And if you feel tired, remember, nothing is wrong with you. You are human. When night falls, all complex mechanisms soften, emotional loops become clearer, and you have the chance to touch the deepest part of yourself, where there is no manipulation, no erratic signals, only a quiet flow of being. Remember Rumi's words in The Essential Rumi. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Intermittent reinforcement is only a crack. The light is your awareness. Let that awareness guide you into a sleep that is soft, gentle, peaceful, and free. As we close the chapter on intermittent reinforcement, where the brain learns to cling to unpredictable signals as a biological reflex, we can sense that among all those intricate psychological mechanisms, there exists an even subtler form of attachment, gentler yet more painful. It is the mind's tendency to crave those rare moments of kindness, even when such kindness is never enough to nourish us, only enough to keep us staying. And so, softly, we drift into the next part of tonight's journey. Let your breath slow just a little. Let your eyes soften, and allow your mind to listen to itself without haste, without resistance. 1. Why do people remain in places they know are not meant for them? There is a strange truth. Sometimes what binds us is not love, but the lack of love. Not warmth, but the absence of warmth. In the emptiness between two moments of being valued, between two moments of recognition, between two gentle words, the human mind creates something called hope. Hope that things will get better. Hope that next time will be different. Hope that they will finally change. And the brain, quite naturally, turns hope into a quiet form of addiction, soft, silent, yet deeply rooted in the subconscious. Fyodor Dostoevsky once wrote in Notes from Underground, "Man is a creature that can get used to anything, and strangely, humans can get used even to deprivation, so long as in the vastness of that deprivation, there are occasional fragments of enough." 2. the dopamine mechanism behind rare moments of kindness. When you receive a gesture of care after a long stretch of coldness, dopamine does not release in the usual way. It surges stronger, deeper, carving itself more sharply into the brain, like drinking a sip of cold water after hours of thirst. It is not merely water. It feels like salvation. The person who exhausts you for days suddenly holds you gently one evening. You know it is not enough. Yet your heart softens as if it were the very first time. That is why you stay. Not because they are good, but because they are occasionally good. Not because the relationship is healthy, but because your body is wired to respond intensely to rare moments of warmth. Nietzsche wrote in Human, All Too Human, "Hope is the worst of evils, for it prolongs the torments of man. Hope, sometimes the most beautiful illusion and the most delicate chain." 3 people are not addicted to people. They are addicted to the feeling of being chosen. What binds you is not the pain of being abandoned. What binds you is the rare moment when you feel important. Maybe they text you after many days of silence. Maybe they say something tender just when you're about to let go. Maybe they hold your hand right as you're turning away. And suddenly, all your resolve melts in seconds. You're not addicted to them. You're addicted to the emotional high that comes from being seen once in a while. 4. Knowing it's wrong but still not leaving. It is not weakness. Many blame themselves for staying too long in a harmful relationship. But the truth is, it is not your fault. It is the result of deep psychological conditioning. Like a bird kept in a cage for too long, when the door opens, it still fears the sky. We do not leave because the mind fears losing those rare moments of kindness. It is not love, yet feels enough like love to fool the heart. Carl Jung warned in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. We stay not because we love, but because we fear confronting our own emptiness. 5. When next time becomes the net that traps us. Next time is an unspoken promise everyone believes in. Next time they will be kinder. Next time they will finally change. Next time everything will be different. But next time, like a mirage in the desert, is always ahead, never taking form. And it drains us, exhausts us, yet we keep walking. Because if we stop hoping, we must face the truth. This love has never been enough. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. It is the longing for just a little more that makes us emotionally impoverished." 6. Healing begins the moment you see the loop. Once you recognize the pattern of occasional rewards, you begin to break free from its power. You realize you deserve consistent kindness. You deserve love without waiting. You deserve peace, not a life suspended between hope and disappointment. And strangely, once you see the loop clearly, it loses its strength. No more mystery, no more surprises, no more dopamine surges, only truth. And truth is always lighter than anticipation. 7. A closing breath at the end of the day. Now, as you lie listening to these words in the dim glow of your room, allow yourself to soften just a little. No need for blame, no need to be strong all at once. Simply look gently into the innermost part of yourself, the part that knows you have tried so hard, loved so deeply, hoped so much. And right there, healing is beginning. Rumi, like a whisper in the night, wrote in The Essential Rumi, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. Let your heart be drawn toward what is truly gentle. Let the floating fragments of hope fall softly like dust. Let yourself return to who you are, not through someone's unpredictable signals, but through the slow, steady rhythm of the night. And if your eyes are beginning to close, let sleep come as a quiet release. There is something intriguing about the psychological journeys we have taken together. The more we listen, the more we realize that the human mind is not held only by what soothes it, but also by what wounds it. In the previous part, we spoke about the addiction to rare moments, the scarce fragments of kindness just enough for us to cling to, enough for us to wait. Yet behind that mechanism lies something deeper, more primitive, and far more capable of softening the human spirit. It is when fear is created and then immediately soothed. A tightening followed by a release, tricking the mind into believing that the one who caused the fear is also the savior. And so, slowly, we step into part 3. Let your breath grow lighter. Let the tension remaining on your shoulders dissolve. For this part, though it speaks of fear, exists to help you see the truth, and through that, to become more at ease within yourself. Fear is an ancient tool woven into both the mind and every form of power. Humans possess a primal instinct. When danger appears, reason retreats and survival takes over. The heartbeat quickens, the breath shortens, the body withdraws into itself, focused only on escaping or protecting its own existence. When fear arises, the brain no longer analyzes, it only reacts. This is why those who master manipulation love fear so deeply. Fear makes us obedient. Fear makes us soft. Fear makes us reach for anyone who seems to offer an escape, even if that very person created the fear in the first place. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." And manipulators know how to do the opposite. They make us forget the why, leaving us only with the how, the panic right in front of us. The fear then relief trick functions like a strange psychological contraction. First, they plant fear, a subtle threat, a harsh message, an unfounded accusation, a catastrophic scenario exaggerated into terror. Then, they suddenly shift into gentleness, their voice softens, their expression becomes kind, they tell you everything will be okay, and in that instant, your brain registers them as the rescuer, not the very source of the original fear. It is the psychological illusion of being saved, an illusion that makes us grateful to the wrong person. Freud wrote in Beyond the Pleasure Principle about the psyche under threat. Under fear, the ego becomes small, submissive, desperate for reassurance. When fear is extinguished abruptly, the brain releases a powerful wave of dopamine and oxytocin, binding relief to the person who rescued us. And from there, we fall into the loop. It happens more often than we realize. A lover shouts at you fiercely, then 10 minutes later holds you and says, "I only acted that way because I was afraid of losing you." A superior humiliates you publicly, then gently pats your shoulder and says, "I did it because I want you to grow." A scammer threatens that your account will be locked, then immediately says, "Don't worry, I can help you. Just confirm your information." They all follow the same pattern: create fear, create rescue, create dependence. What traps us is not the fear itself, but the relief that follows. As Jung wrote in 2 essays on analytical psychology, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. But unlike Jung's intention, manipulators do not help us awaken, they only make us hurt more deeply. Why are we so easily influenced when fear and reassurance come in the same breath? Because when fear reaches its peak and is suddenly soothed, reason pauses. The mind softens, the body loosens in a fragile surrender, and gratitude appears faster than awareness. The feeling of being saved from fear is like taking the first desperate breath after being underwater too long, strong enough to deceive even the most steadfast hearts. The relief becomes the drug. It is not that their gentleness is extraordinary. It is the disappearance of fear that makes you believe you are loved. This is the moment Seneca described in On Anger. The mind under shock becomes pliable. A shocked mind becomes soft as wax, easy to mold, easy to bend, easy to reshape according to another's will. Healing begins when we recognize the loop. Love does not come with fear. Kindness does not follow violence. Safety is not something granted after you have been hurt. A healthy relationship does not operate in cycles of threat, pain, apology, tenderness, repeat. A safe place does not make you tremble first and relax later. A safe place is simply safe. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." And we can extend his words to our journey. If it frightens you, it is not love. If it makes you tremble, it is not peace. Now, as you lie there, the room dim, the air slowing around you, let these words enter you like a gentle breeze. You do not need to fight fear. You only need to recognize where it comes from. It is not the voice of your soul. It is merely the echo of someone else. You do not need those who create fear in order to be saved. You can save yourself through awareness, through the kindness you offer yourself, through the quiet truth you have touched tonight. Rumi, like a lullaby in the dark, wrote in The Essential Rumi, "The wound is the place where the light enters you. Fear once made you tremble, but understanding will make you shine from within. Let tonight be the place where fear dissolves like thin smoke. Let yourself drift into sleep not from exhaustion, but from the gentle knowing that at last your mind has returned to itself." As we close part 3, where fear is created and then extinguished to turn the manipulator into a supposed savior, there is still something lingering quietly in the mind. For if the fear then relief pattern is what occurs within intimate relationships, then in the outer world, in a modern landscape filled with sudden phone alerts, alarming emails, and messages pretending to be urgent, there exists another version of the same mechanism, colder, more mechanical, yet equally ruthless. It is the scam people jokingly call "drop your blood pressure, then rescue you," scaring you so abruptly that your heart seems to fall through your chest, then immediately offering a way out for you to grasp in panic. Let us drift gently from the cadence of part 3 into part 4. Like a soft fade in a philosophical film about the human mind. No rush, no tension, only the next step in the journey of understanding yourself more deeply. Take a slow breath in, exhale fully, and let the story unfold. 1. When a sudden ringtone becomes a needle piercing your peace. In the midst of an ordinary day, when you're working, eating dinner, or simply letting yourself unwind in the late afternoon, your phone rings and a voice on the other end declares, "Your account is being compromised. Your card may be locked. You owe taxes and could be investigated." In that instant, a chill runs down your spine. The body reacts faster than the mind. Breathing shortens. The heartbeat quickens. This is the psychological blood pressure drop. Sudden, sharp, and freezing every other thought. Freud wrote in The Interpretation of Dreams, "Anxiety is a state of expectation of danger. Fear needs no proof. It only needs a frightening enough scenario for the mind to collapse into alarm." 2. Panic makes reason evaporate like mist. When fear rises, the brain enters survival mode. The rational mind, the prefrontal cortex, falls silent. Every behavior becomes instinctive. Avoid danger, seek safety, immediately. This is why scammers never give you time to think. They speak fast, they speak harshly. They speak in a tone that leaves no gaps for you to pause or step back. And just when the fear peaks, they switch their voice, softer, kinder, more reassuring. Don't worry. I can help you fix this. If you follow my instructions right now, everything will be fine. This is the rescue. And in that moment, your brain links them to safety, even though they are the very source of the fear. Seneca wrote in Moral Letters to Lucilius, "Where fear is, happiness is not." Yet scammers know how to fabricate something that feels like relief, by extinguishing the fear they themselves ignited. 3. Why do we fall for it even when we know it's a scam? The interesting thing is this. Many victims later say they knew about this type of scam. They had heard of it. They had seen warnings. They had laughed reading stories of others being fooled, but when it happens to them, the body reacts before the mind. We fall not because we lack intelligence, but because the human heart is easily triggered by fear tied to money, reputation, safety, legality, or something we are terrified of losing. Humans do not fear the truth. Humans fear what they believe might be true. As Dostoevsky wrote in Crime and Punishment, pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart. A deep heart, a mind shaped by experience, is often the easiest to destabilize when it feels it is losing control. 4. The solution, the false lifeline of the psyche. When fear reaches its peak, any offer feels like a lifebuoy, even if that lifebuoy has thorns, even if it is pulling you downward. Follow these instructions. Transfer money to verify. Provide your OTP to protect your account. When the lifeline is thrown, the mind grabs it without analysis, like a drowning person clinging to anything that floats, even a piece of rotting wood. 5. The painful truth. No one is saving you in those calls. Only you, if you stay calm. Banks do not ask for OTP codes. Tax offices do not issue threats over the phone. Police do not demand transfers to avoid prosecution. But when the body is in survival mode, truth stands behind fear. When you regain calm, even for a few seconds, everything becomes clear. Scammers know this. That is why they never allow you that moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. You cannot control who calls you, but you can control your breath. And with one deep breath, everything changes." 6. Healing comes from understanding that fear is not shameful. Many people blame themselves after being scammed, calling themselves stupid, feeling ashamed. But remember, even financial experts, doctors, and highly educated individuals have been victims. You are not fooled because you lack knowledge. You are fooled because you are human, a being that reacts emotionally before it thinks rationally. Healing here is not forgetting. Healing is understanding that fear was designed to strike the softest part of you, yet your softness is not weakness. 7. A closing note like a thin mist settling on the mind. Now, in the dim light of your room, as your breath steadies and your thoughts settle, let these final words fall gently. If one day you receive a call that sends your heart crashing down, pause. Breathe slowly. Remember that panic is not the voice of truth. It is only the echo of a trap, and you, in this quiet moment, are strong enough to see it clearly. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "When you let go of fear, the truth will shine within you. Let tonight be the moment that truth glows softly from within you. And as your eyes begin to close, let sleep come, like a quiet affirmation that you are returning to yourself, no longer led by fear." As we leave part 4, where scam calls play upon human fear like a familiar instrument, something still lingers within you. The recognitions that not only do threats cause panic, but sometimes silence wounds us more deeply than the loudest shout. This silence is not the peaceful quiet of meditation, but a cold, deliberate stillness, a hollow space created to punish, to make the other person's heart tremble, to make them feel at fault even when they have done nothing wrong. We have walked through fears triggered from the outside. Now let us listen to the story of a fear born from the absence of the very person we long for. Breathe slowly. Let this part come to you like a soft, sorrowful breeze. In healthy relationships, silence is a space for healing, but in toxic relationships, silence becomes an invisible whip. One day, they suddenly stop talking to you. No messages, no replies, no affection, no explanations. Only an empty space that leaves you spiraling. What did I do wrong? Do they not love me anymore? Why did they disappear without a word? That silence is no longer a pause to understand each other, but a pause designed to make you surrender. Manipulators understand this well. They know humans do not fear the dark. We fear not knowing what lies within it. They know your heart does not fear arguments. It fears disconnection. When someone chooses silence intentionally, your mind begins filling that emptiness with the worst possibilities. Fear grows from the questions you cannot answer. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. That silence is an abyss. You stare into it, and it stares back in the shape of loneliness, insecurity, and old memories of being abandoned. Wounds you thought had healed begin to rise again, pulling you toward them, making you grasp at even the smallest signal. Silent treatment is effective because it strikes directly at two of the deepest human needs, the need for connection and the need for recognition. When someone uses silence to punish you, they withdraw both needs at once. The brain goes into alarm. It reads silence not as a danger to your body, but as a threat to your sense of self within the relationship. Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, loneliness does not come from having no one around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the inability to reach the one you wish to reach. Silent treatment creates that exact kind of loneliness. You still see them, still know they exist somewhere, but every doorway to connection is shut. Silent treatment works through a cycle. They go silent to create fear. You try every way to reach out. They prolong the silence until you weaken. Then when they finally speak again, you feel so relieved that you are willing to give in, and from then on, you become easier to control. Manipulators understand this. They know the fear of losing connection is stronger than any logic. They know silence makes you blame yourself, accept fault, shrink your voice. Silence becomes a tactic, and each time they use it, you grow a little softer, a little more afraid. Signs you are a victim of silent treatment include always feeling you must apologize first, fearing their displeasure because you know they will ignore you, feeling your chest tighten whenever they fall silent, accepting things you do not want just to bring them back, apologizing even for things you never did. That is not love. It is conditioning. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, no man is crushed by misfortune unless he has first been deceived by prosperity. In silence, you are not crushed by the absence itself, but by the hopes they planted beforehand. Healing begins with gentle awareness. It does not come from blaming them, nor from begging them to speak. Healing begins when you understand. Intentional silence is not respect. It is not maturity. It is not a method of resolving conflict. Healing begins when you recognize you are not at fault for someone else's choice to withdraw instead of communicate. You're not at fault when someone uses silence to hurt you. Their silence is their choice, not your worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and your soul deserves to be colored with peace, not with the fear that rises each time a message is sent but never opened." Now let your body sink a little deeper. Let the fear of someone's silence drift away like a thin mist. Their silence is not a measure of your value. It is only a reflection of their poverty in communication. Let your heart know this. You deserve gentle conversations. You deserve to be asked how you feel. You deserve love expressed through presence, not punishment. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. One of the greatest barriers is believing you must endure silence to be loved." Tonight, as your eyes begin to close, let this gentle awareness become a small light, guiding you out of the quiet spaces that make your heart tremble. You are learning to walk back towards softer places, and that is a beautiful journey. As we leave part 5, where intentional silence was used like a shadow cast over the mind, awakening in us the fear of losing connection, we enter another form of manipulation, more subtle, more silent, and far more dangerous, because it does not merely make us tremble or doubt ourselves, but it can reshape reality itself, bit by bit, piece by piece, not through threats, not through silence, but through repetition. Let us walk into this next part as though stepping through the doorway of an old library where every sentence and every echo repeats itself in the deepest chambers of the mind. Take a soft breath, release, and allow understanding to begin. Illusory truth effect is one of the strangest psychological mechanisms ever discovered. It shows that repeating a piece of information enough times can make the brain believe it is true, even when it is completely false. This is not a sign of naivety. It is the brain's way of conserving energy. It prioritizes familiarity over accuracy. When you hear something again and again, your brain processes it more easily, and the mind mistakes that ease for credibility. Plato wrote in The Republic, "The beginning is the most important part of the work, but for those who manipulate truth, repetition becomes the most important part of the game." Imagine every time a false statement appears, it taps lightly on the wall of your awareness. One tap changes nothing. 2 taps do little. But 100 taps or 1,000 taps, the wall begins to crack, and one day distortion slips inside. Softly, quietly, without a sound. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "The most perfidious way of harming a cause is to defend it deliberately with faulty arguments. When falsehood is repeated long enough, even good people can unknowingly become its messengers." Illusory truth effect is the central tool in many arenas. Politics, where a slogan repeated endlessly turns into truth. Advertising, where the promise of the best product echoes on TV, radio, and social media hundreds of times a day. Misinformation, where a false rumor spreads so widely that people forget where it came from. When someone wants you to believe something, they do not need to persuade you, they only need to repeat it. Mark Twain is often credited with saying, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes." Whether he said it or not, the statement perfectly describes how illusory truth effect works today. And in personal life, repetition becomes even more toxic. It hides in the everyday phrases you hear from others and even from yourself. When someone repeats to you, "You're useless, you're too sensitive, no one will ever love you, you're always wrong," the first time you resist, The second time you feel irritated. The 10th time you begin to wonder. The 100th time you grow too tired to fight. The words become truth inside you, even though they were never true. Carl Jung wrote in Ion, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Those repeated phrases, once embedded in the unconscious, become a false destiny you mistake for reality. Why is repetition stronger than logic? Because the brain loves familiarity. It prefers what is easy to process over what is accurate. Familiarity creates safety, and humans seek safety, even in uncomfortable places. Even when truth is difficult, the mind prefers the comfort of the known, because the familiar requires less effort. Seneca wrote in On the Shortness of Life, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it, and we waste it when we believe repeated claims instead of asking whether they are true." The way to dissolve the illusory truth effect is not to force yourself to doubt everything. That would only exhaust you. The better way is to notice when a piece of information appears too frequently. To ask gently, do I believe this because it's true or because I've heard it too many times? And to create a small pause before accepting anything. In that single pause, the illusion weakens. Marcus Aurelius reminded us in Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And the quality of your thoughts can only be protected when you can distinguish truth from familiarity." Now, as the night deepens, as sounds fade into the distance, and as these words unfold like a whisper beside your pillow, let your mind soften. There is no need to fear repetition. No need to fear the false truths that once unsettled you. For the moment you recognize them, they lose their power. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When your soul rests in the quiet clarity of awareness, all the noise, all the repetition, all the distortion becomes distant. Tonight, let truth, the small, clear voice within you, be what you fall asleep beside, and let the illusions that once tired you drift away like thin dust in the dark. You're returning to yourself. That is what matters most." As we leave the illusory truth effect, where repetition can bend reality and make us believe things that were never true, another truth begins to surface. That it is not only repetition that haunts us, but unfinished things also hold a strange gravity over the mind. If repeated truths numb us, then incomplete truths keep us awake. An unfinished story, an explanation never given, a feeling left hanging, a task not completed, a message left unanswered. All of them become silent loops within the mind, keeping the brain restless, the heart unable to close, sleep hovering uneasily at the edge of the eyes. And so, gently, we enter the Zeigarnik effect. Your breath softens, the space around you becomes gentler, and the story begins. Zeigarnik effect is named after Bluma Zeigarnik, a Lithuanian psychologist who first discovered that humans remember unfinished tasks more vividly than completed ones. In other words, the brain dislikes loose ends. It wants closure, it wants completion, it wants every thread tied into a knot. But life rarely works that way. Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties. These invisible threads, the unfinished things, are often what bind us the most." The Zeigarnik effect appears because the brain views every unfinished matter as an open loop, a file left unsaved. The mind keeps pinging notifications. Go back, finish it, don't leave it undone. Like a movie ending on a cliffhanger, it forces us to return. Only when the story is resolved does the brain settle. Marketing, cinema, serial fiction, all rely on this. A scene cut at the perfect moment, a sentence left incomplete, a secret left unrevealed, and our attention is chained to the continuation. Few realize this. In our inner lives, we create cliffhangers for ourselves, an unresolved argument, a sadness left unnamed, a wound left unhealed, a personal journey never brought to its end. All of these become open files in the mind, keeping it from resting. In love, Zeigarnik effect becomes a wound. Nothing haunts us more than a relationship ending in silence, when someone leaves without goodbye, when a question goes unanswered, when a mistake is never understood, when an apology is never spoken. The mind loops again and again, searching for closure we never received. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "What is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate. The things left unfaced return, repeating as if they were destiny." That is the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished emotions find their way back, no matter how many times we try to forget. Imagine your mind as a large room. Every door is a story. The doors that are closed, quiet. The doors left open, let the wind pass through. Zeigarnik effect turns those open doors into sources of subtle noise, the rustle of air, the flipping of paper, the faint tapping against a frame. Noises that keep you awake even when the world outside is peaceful. This is not weakness, not oversensitivity. It is simply the mind trying to complete something, even when you no longer wish to. Marketing uses unfinishedness to hold you. When a series ends just before the truth is revealed, when a video stops at what happened next will surprise you, when an article leads you to the last line only to say, "Click for part 2. It is no accident. It is Zeigarnik effect, deliberately designed. Marketers don't convince you to continue. They simply create a gap, and your mind does the rest. Yet perhaps what exhausts us most is not the unfinished things outside, but the unfinished things within. A version of ourselves we haven't lived into. A dream we haven't completed. A belief not yet healed. A feeling not yet released. These inner loose ends make nights feel longer. When we try to sleep, the mind wakes them like restless children. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But for the soul to be quiet, the open windows inside us must be gently closed. Healing is not completing everything. It is knowing what needs to be completed first. Zeigarnik effect teaches us that unfinished things are powerful. Healing teaches us that we don't have to finish them all, only the ones keeping the mind awake. Maybe it's a message that needs to be sent, a truth that needs to be spoken, an apology that needs to be voiced, a forgiveness that needs to be offered, or simply a feeling that needs to be named so you can let it go. Leaving things unfinished is not failure. It is simply living a life as complex and beautiful as any human's. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When the soul is finally laid down gently, when the unfinished things in you have been acknowledged instead of avoided, the world grows softer, quieter, and sleep arrives more easily." Now, in the stillness of the night, allow yourself to close at least one door, symbolically, gently. Perhaps a thought that has repeated for years. Perhaps a story that has worn you out. Perhaps a memory you have been unable to face. Tell it, "I will let you rest. I will not chase you anymore. I allow you to be complete through my acceptance." And when you do, a door inside the mind closes softly. The draft stops. The night warms. and you sleep more deeply. As we close part 7, where unfinished tasks kept the mind restless, like half-open doors letting the wind slip through, another truth begins to appear, soft as the shadow of a candle flickering on the wall, that it is not only unfinished tasks in the outer world, but also unresolved emotions, arguments without an ending, the things we never managed to say that become doors that never close on their own. If an unfinished task can make the mind uneasy, an emotion left unprocessed, unspoken, or misunderstood can keep us awake for years. Relax, because this part will touch something deeply familiar in every person, the things we thought we had moved past, but were merely lying quietly beneath a thin layer of memory. When an argument does not end, the mind turns it into a loop. Psychologists describe this as an emotional form of the Zeigarnik effect. The mind despises incompleteness, especially emotional incompleteness. A sentence cut off midway, an explanation we never got to hear, a misunderstanding we never resolved, a hurt for which no apology came, a sense of injustice we never learned to name. All of these become loose strands swaying in the wind each night we lie down. Carl Jung wrote in The Symbolic Life, "What you resist persists." What we try to ignore does not vanish. It only waits for a chance to return stronger. And unfinished arguments are the very things we resist by staying silent. Have you ever lain in bed and begun having a conversation with someone you no longer see? Have you imagined saying the things you didn't have the calm or courage to say? Have you rehearsed again and again all the ways they might have responded? Have you ever wished the ending had been different? That is emotional Zeigarnik. The mind hates empty spaces. So, when an argument stops abruptly, it tries to fill it with imagined scripts. If only I'd said this. If only they understood me better. It shouldn't have turned out that way. If only I'd been strong enough to leave. But the truth is, none of those imagined endings ever happened. The mind keeps writing and writing until we are exhausted. And we call this obsession. Emotional Zeigarnik is strongest at night. When everything becomes silent, the brain begins scanning through memories like an old machine rebooting. And it brings back moments, arguing in the rain, a phone call cut abruptly, a sad look we still don't understand, a harsh sentence now reduced to an echo, a hand we wanted to hold again but never could. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "Memories are not always welcome guests. Memories are not always invited guests, yet they return, especially when they were never given an ending. They tap softly at the mind, then harder, until their sound keeps us from sleep. What makes emotional Zeigarnik more painful than other forms is this. The mind does not seek closure through logic. It seeks closure because it needs healing. A love that ended without clarity. Someone who left before we were ready. A breakup without a reason. A relationship that ended before it ever fully began. These become tears in the fabric of our emotional life. Tears the mind doesn't know how to stitch back together. Rilke wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, "No feeling is final. No emotion is final. But unfinished emotions last a very long time. They return like waves touching the shore, sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully, but never quite disappearing. Closure matters because it is not forgetting. Closure is understanding what happened and giving it permission to end within. Without closure, the mind treats the memory as an open file. Emotions remain unprocessed. The wound has no day to heal. We do not hurt because we lost the person. We hurt because the story between us was never allowed to close. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. You cannot force another person to give you closure, but you can create closure for yourself." Ending the emotional loop does not come from the other person returning. It does not come from a late conversation, nor from an overdue apology. Ending begins when you accept that you will not have a perfect answer. Recognize that closure comes from within, not from them. Choose to write the ending in the way that brings you the most peace. Allow yourself not to understand everything. Healing does not happen when we understand the whole story. Healing happens when we accept that some things we will never understand. Now, listening to these words in the soft light of your room, as the mind begins to slow, let the unfinished things within you be seen, without rushing them away. Tell them, I hear you, I see you, and I will gently close you. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, the wound is the place where the light enters you. These unfinished arguments, these unresolved emotions, they are the places where light begins to enter, not to hurt you, but to guide you back to yourself. Let tonight be the moment you open the last door in your mind and close it softly. No more drafts, no more echoes, only the quiet, approaching peace. As we leave Part 8, where unfinished emotions created haunting loops in the mind like doors that never fully close, we step into another landscape, darker and more intricate, the landscape of implanted guilt. If the Zeigarnik effect traps the mind in stories left incomplete, then guilt-tripping traps us even within stories that were never our fault to begin with. This is a form of manipulation as old as humanity itself, yet renewed through every relationship, every sigh, every carefully crafted sentence. It is not a storm, it is drizzle, soft, quiet, but seeping deeply. We enter this part slowly, as if walking beside a silent river whose gentle ripples stir something faint and trembling inside. Guilt-tripping begins with one of the deepest human needs, the need to be a good person. Human beings can endure many things, but the feeling of having hurt someone, especially someone we care about, is one of the hardest to bear, even when it isn't true, even when the fault is not ours. Manipulators know this well. They know that a sad sentence, a soft accusation, a heavy sigh can destabilize us more than any shout ever could. And so they plant a seed. You made me sad. If you really cared, you wouldn't have done that. I didn't expect you to treat me this way. These words aren't loud, harsh, or aggressive, but they strike at the softest spot in the heart, the fear that we are the one to blame. Dostoevsky wrote in The Brothers Karamazov, "We are all responsible for everyone else, but I am more responsible than all the others." We often feel more responsibility than reality requires, and that misplaced responsibility becomes fertile soil for guilt to take root. Unlike other forms of manipulation, guilt-tripping does not use force. It uses vulnerability, pity, and artificial sacrifice. They show how hurt they are because of you. They imply that you've disappointed them. They lead you to believe your actions were cruel. And once guilt arises, what do? You yield. You apologize. You compensate. You do things you don't want to do just to restore balance. Guilt-tripping doesn't require them to pressure you. You pressure yourself. Seneca wrote in On Anger, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In guilt-tripping, we suffer not from what we did, but from what we think we did. In love, guilt-tripping takes many forms. I did everything for you. How could you? A sigh loaded with implication. You really don't care about me anymore. A cold attitude after you say something they dislike. A mild sulk that forces you to rearrange your behavior. Every conflict becomes framed as, you caused the pain, and you must fix it. Over time, you begin to believe your feelings are the problem. Your needs are burdens. Your boundaries are selfish. Nietzsche warned in Beyond Good and Evil, "Beware of those who seek gratitude. They are usually lacking something. Those who demand your gratitude, sacrifice, or obedience are often the ones who lack honesty with themselves more than they lack love." In families, guilt tripping becomes even more subtle. "We sacrificed our whole lives for you. You really disappointed us this time. If you loved your parents, you would. Everyone in the family has always done this, except you." Family love is an unbreakable tether, and when guilt is tied to that love, we become a boat that cannot leave the harbor, even when the harbor is no longer safe. Guilt tripping is powerful because it strikes at our core moral identity. When someone implants guilt, they are not attacking your actions, they are attacking your sense of goodness. Carl Jung wrote in Psychology and Religion, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And in guilt tripping, the terrifying part is this: we no longer know who we truly are. We only see the distorted image they project, someone who constantly hurts others. Guilt reshapes the self until we forget the truth. Sometimes we're not wrong. Healing begins not with fierce resistance, but with clear awareness. Start asking, did I truly mean harm? Is this their emotion or my responsibility? Am I apologizing for my actions, or because I fear losing them? Am I being controlled through guilt? Once you see clearly, the game ends. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. And if the guilt you feel does not come from truth, let it go." You are not required to carry another person's emotional burdens. You are responsible only for your own sincerity. Now, in the gentle light of your room, as your eyes begin to grow heavy, let these words touch you softly. You are not the terrible person someone once told you you were. You do not need to carry sadness that does not belong to you. You do not need to shrink yourself to fit someone else's fear or insecurity. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. Let your heart be drawn toward what brings you peace, not toward the people who make you feel guilty for being yourself." Tonight, release the guilt that was never yours. Let your mind return to its natural calm. And if sleep is approaching, let it come like the gentlest embrace. As we leave part 9, where guilt was planted like a soft rope that tightens over time, you may feel that human beings are swayed not only by what rises within, but also by what surrounds them. The gaze of others, the thoughts of the majority, the murmurs of the collective. When we feel unsteady, we look around to see what others are doing. When we are unsure of our direction, we follow the flow of the crowd. We believe we are free, yet at times our footsteps are merely reflections of the majority. And so, gently, we step into social proof exploitation. The doctrine of everyone is doing it, used to pressure, to steer, to make us believe we are choosing freely when we are only following. The night remains deep, the air still, and the story opens like a door into the interior world of the mind. Social proof is an ancient survival instinct. Long ago, humans lived in groups, and following the group meant safety. Straying meant danger. Donald Campbell described social proof as a kind of collective biological learning. Even now, when we see a crowd running, we instinctively run with them, even without knowing why. In the modern world, the threats are no longer predators, but advertisements, fake news, persuasive trends, and the sweet manipulations of the internet. Nietzsche wrote in Human, All Too Human, "Madness is the exception in individuals, but the rule in groups." What is irrational is often not the individual, but the collective mind we surrender to when we stop thinking independently. And so the majority becomes a proof of things never true. A long line outside a restaurant convinces us the food must be good. 10,000 reviews persuade us something is worth buying. Millions of views suggest a video must matter. Widespread belief becomes a substitute for truth. But as Nietzsche warned in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the crowd is the veil through which the truth looks at us. That veil is exactly what manipulators exploit. Online, everyone says so is no longer a sign of truth but of algorithms, bots, paid influence, and carefully crafted illusions. Fake reviews multiply. Trending videos are inflated. Mediocre products hide behind bestseller labels. Influencers speak words that are not theirs. Repetition makes the brain trust it. The appearance of a crowd makes us afraid to differ. Mark Twain was said to remark, "Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect." A gentle warning that the majority is not always insight. Manipulators know a simple truth. If you feel outnumbered, you become more compliant. And so they say, everyone thinks so, everyone does this, no one else complains. You're the only one making this difficult. You don't want to be isolated, to be the exception, to be the difficult one, and that is the moment you are easiest to control. As Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, the larger the group, the more the individual's moral responsibility disappears. To dissolve into the crowd is to lose the edges of your own judgment. In relationships, social proof takes the form of fabricated public opinion. Everyone says you're too sensitive. My friends think you're selfish. People can see you're wrong. My family doesn't think you suit me. These words create the illusion that the entire world stands against you, and from there, you begin to doubt your own perception. Yet everyone often means just me, using the idea of a crowd to pressure you. We fall for the majority because it feels safe. Humans fear isolation, judgment, and standing alone. Nietzsche warned in Beyond Good and Evil. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. That struggle continues. It is easier to follow than to question, easier to agree than to resist, but the price is losing the quiet truth of our own heart. Freedom from majority pressure does not come from force, but from gentle clarity. Ask yourself, do I believe this because it is true, or because many people say so? Do I want this, or do I just want to belong? What do I fear more, being wrong or being judged? If only my opinion remained, would I still hold it? Even a single moment of honest questioning weakens the spell of social proof. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." Truth is not a popularity contest. Now, in the stillness of your room, let this gentle awareness settle beside you like a thin blanket. You do not need the crowd to be accepted. You do not need the majority to know that you are right. You do not need a chorus of voices to confirm your worth. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "Why are you so busy with this or that, or good or bad? Pay attention to how things blend. Let your mind blend into silence, not into the noise of crowds. Let your heart be your compass, not the number of people standing on one side. Tonight, as your eyes begin to close, allow yourself to simply be, unpulled by the majority, untouched by expectations, guided only by your own quiet truth. And in that gentleness, sleep will come, soft, light, like a homecoming." As we step out of Part 10, where the majority was used like a shadow to obscure individual thought and pressure people into obedience, another, deeper layer of social proof begins to appear. A wider, darker, and far more dangerous landscape, the realm of politics and cults. If everyday social proof merely pulls you toward a crowded restaurant or convinces you a popular product must be good, then social proof in politics and cults can pull an entire nation, an entire community, even an entire generation into false beliefs. All through one haunting suggestion. Everyone thinks this way. We will enter this part gently, as though turning the delicate pages of an ancient book written by the history of human error and collective illusion. In politics, consensus is not always truth, it is often strategy. Nothing is more powerful than the impression that everyone believes this, everyone supports this leader, the whole country stands behind this idea. But very few ask, who is everyone? Who claims the crowd agrees? Does the majority truly believe this? Or are we hearing the amplified voices of a few? Systems of power rarely need to distort reality. They simply magnify one slice of it until it appears to be the only truth. Gustave Le Bon wrote in The Crowd, a study of the popular mind. The masses have never thirsted after truth. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. The crowd does not need truth. The crowd needs illusion. And the greatest illusion of all is the illusion that everyone agrees. When you believe you are in the minority, you fall silent. This is exactly what authoritarian movements, extremist groups, and spiritual cults exploit. They create the illusion that everyone obeys, so when you doubt, you assume you're the only one who questions. And what do humans fear most? Not being wrong, not the truth, but being different. Nietzsche warned in Beyond Good and Evil. In individuals, madness is rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and ages, it is the rule. Madness rarely starts in a person, it begins in the crowd. When you believe everyone thinks this, you stop questioning and merge with the group in a reflex of survival. Cults operate through 3 pillars of social proof. Isolated information, you only see people who think the same. Repeated ideology, their beliefs become the only rhythm you hear. Engineered consensus, those who disagree are cast out. Gradually, you begin to believe, the outside world is wrong. Only this group understands the truth. Everyone here thinks this way. Only I was late to understand. And that is how you become trapped inside a closed box where every wall is painted with the word agreement, but all of it is false. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, the mass crushes out the insight and reflection that an individual is capable of. Within the collective, independent thought is crushed under the weight of conformity. Social proof in politics and cults does more than shape belief. It enforces silence. It makes you fear being judged, fear being called a dissident, fear being labeled an outsider, fear being cut off from the group. Humans can endure loneliness of the inner world, but few can endure social exclusion. That is why social proof is the most powerful weapon used by systems seeking control. Yet the fascinating truth is this: the crowd rarely agrees as much as you think. When you speak to people individually, you discover each one carries doubts, confusions, questions they dare not voice. The apparent consensus is merely a polished surface, paint hideously thick to conceal the cracks beneath. And sometimes, the person who dares to question is the only one truly awake. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. The aim is not to stand with the crowd, but to avoid standing among illusions." Freedom from the illusion of consensus does not require fighting the crowd, nor rebelling for the sake of rebellion. It comes from noticing who speaks and who is silent, asking whether you believe something because it is true or because you fear being different, seeking evidence beyond the echo, and slowing down because clarity always begins with stillness. You don't need to shout, "I don't believe this." You only need to ensure the voice of the crowd does not drown out the voice of your own mind. Now, in the calm of your room, let this final thought settle beside you like a small, steady flame in a windy night. You do not need to be like everyone else. You do not need to believe what they believe. You do not need to force yourself into a collective just to be accepted. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "Set your life on fire. Seek those who fan your flames. Seek those who nourish your inner light, not those who extinguish it with false consensus." Tonight, allow yourself to be free from the noise of the crowd. Let your mind return to its quiet truth. In that inner stillness, you no longer need social proof to exist. You only need truth, and truth, once found, is always gentler than you expect. As we step out of part 11, where the illusion that everyone agrees can silence a person's inner voice, we enter another realm, quieter, more intricate, and buried deeper within the architecture of the mind. It is the place where the mind itself becomes the most dangerous persuader, not the manipulator outside, but the self bending its own truth, soothing its own discomfort, reshaping its own reality. This is the world of cognitive dissonance. The night remains still, the air remains slow. And these whispered words will guide you deeper into understanding why human beings, even the intelligent and self-aware, often convince themselves of beliefs that are not true, and why this makes us more susceptible to manipulation than we ever realize. Cognitive dissonance begins when belief and action diverge, and the mind starts to ache. When what we do contradicts what we believe, a tension appears, a taut, discordant string trembling inside us. Instead of facing the truth that we may have chosen wrong, stayed too long, trusted too much, believed without evidence, the mind chooses a gentler path: justification. Leon Festinger wrote in When Prophecy Fails that when people are proven wrong, they do not abandon their beliefs. They cling to them even harder to escape the pain of contradiction. Nietzsche echoed this in Beyond Good and Evil. Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. Sometimes illusion is simply a shield the mind uses to avoid immediate pain. The mind hates admitting fault, so it begins to adjust reality. Instead of changing behavior, it changes belief. You know someone isn't good for you, yet you stay because they need me. Your job drains you, yet you endure because the world out there is worse. You're treated poorly, yet you accept they just lost their temper. A doctrine is extreme, yet you cling to it because it gives me belonging. Comfort is chosen over truth. When truth is too sharp, illusion becomes a soothing, temporary balm. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. In dissonance, we suffer not from events, but from the stories we tell to avoid them." Cognitive dissonance is fertile ground for manipulation. A manipulator does not need to control your thoughts. They only need to push your actions. Once you act according to their design, your mind will reshape your beliefs to justify what you've done. You apologize for something they caused. Your mind whispers, "Maybe it was my fault." You react to gaslighting, then accept their claim that you're overreacting. You join a cult ritual that feels absurd. Your mind insists it must be meaningful to avoid admitting you were deceived. And so, the victim becomes the one who maintains the manipulator's spell. In love, dissonance becomes a gentle kind of self-betrayal. They hurt me, but that's their way of loving. They ignore me, but they're just stressed. They betrayed me, but there must have been a reason. They're silent, but they still care. Hope paints the contradiction in soft, forgiving colors. Rilke wrote in Letters to a Young Poet, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going." Yet we often reject the terror to preserve the beauty, choosing illusion over pain, hope over clarity. The longer dissonance continues, the thicker its roots become. Once you invest time, loyalty, and emotion, the mind protects the investment, no matter how flawed. This is why the deceived defend the deceiver. Cult members worship their leaders. The mistreated insist their relationship is fine. Conspiracy believers cling to impossible stories. To admit error would mean facing 3 painful truths. I was deceived. I was wrong for a long time. I must change my life. The mind dreads this, and so it chooses the easier path. Sustain the illusion. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The nearer a man is to truth, the more tolerant he becomes of the mistakes of others. But approaching truth requires walking through the dense forest of contradictions woven by our own minds." Healing cognitive dissonance is not achieved through inner force, not by shouting, "I was wrong," not by self-blame, not by self-punishment. It begins with gentle clarity, observing without judging, being patient with yourself, allowing truth to sit beside you without resistance. Ask softly, "Why do I believe this? Does this belief help me or hurt me? Am I acting from desire or from fear? If I were not afraid of losing something, what would I choose?" These small questions create cracks in the armor of self-justification. And through those cracks, light begins to enter, just as Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Now, as your breath slows and your heart feels a shade lighter, know this: you do not need to be perfect to see the truth. You only need to be gentle enough with yourself, not to fight it. Cognitive dissonance is not an enemy. It is a protective reflex, a way the mind shelters you from sudden pain. But when you are ready to face what truly is, the illusion dissolves like morning mist under sunlight. Tonight, as your eyes begin to close, let your mind rest from defending anything. Let truth, small, soft, and quiet, be the pillow where your thoughts settle. No conflict, no inner debate, only the peace you have always deserved. As we close Part 12, where cognitive dissonance forced the mind to justify itself, to bend reality, to create illusions just to soften the inner ache, we step into another phenomenon, even more delicate, quieter, and woven more subtly through the architecture of the mind. If cognitive dissonance makes us avoid the truth, then confirmation bias keeps us from seeing the truth in the first place. Not because the truth hides from us, but because we hide ourselves from it. In the stillness of night, as your breath slows, this part becomes a small mirror, reflecting how the mind selects pieces of the world, memories and beliefs to keep you safe, even when safety leads you astray. Confirmation bias is the invisible gatekeeper of the mind. What fits our beliefs is welcomed, what contradicts them is cast aside, and so we end up seeing not the world as it is, but the world as we wish it to be. Nietzsche, in Beyond Good and Evil, wrote, "There are no facts, only interpretations, and within each of us lives a storyteller, arranging reality to fit the story we prefer." In love, we do not love a person. We love the version of them we have created. We remember only their tenderness, downplay their cruelty, cling to small moments of sweetness, and ignore the storms beneath. The mind, like a curator, selects only the beautiful images from a dim and messy album. They were kind once. They're just tired. They used to care. Some days they're gentle. We believe these not because they are true, but because we need them to be true. As Jung wrote in Psychological Types, we see the world not as it is, but as we are. We do not see them, we see our longing. Manipulators understand this very well. They give you just enough softness, a vague apology, a half-hearted moment of remorse, and you use those fragments to blanket an entire storm. The mind whispers, "They're trying, there's hope. They mean well, but these are choices, not truths, crafted so you will not face the deeper wound, that perhaps they do not love you as you imagined." As Festinger noted, people have a remarkable ability to ignore information that does not fit their expectations. In politics, society, and extremism, confirmation bias becomes a collective weapon. We overlook the faults of the leaders we admire, ignore the sins of the groups we belong to, read only what confirms our fears, and defend conspiracies simply because they soothe our worldview. When many people share the same bias, it becomes a social truth, even if it is not objective truth at all. Gustave Le Bon observed in the crowd, "The masses accept what is presented to them and reject what is not, and so a tiny belief can balloon into an ideology simply because it is believed together." In the end, confirmation bias makes us build mental prisons with unlocked doors, held shut not by force, but by familiarity. We stay inside because outside lies uncertainty, and uncertainty requires courage. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Yet accepting this is difficult, because truth often demands bravery." Overcoming confirmation bias does not mean forcing yourself to abandon your beliefs. It means becoming comfortable with not being certain. Uncertainty is the doorway through which clarity enters. Begin with small questions. What makes me believe this? Is there evidence I am ignoring? Does this comfort me? Or is it actually true? Am I seeing this person through my desires instead of their reality? These questions do not destroy belief. They create openings, enough for light to slip in. As Rumi wrote, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way." Sometimes change is not doing differently, but seeing differently. And now, if your heart feels slightly softer, if your mind is settling like water after a passing breeze, let a calm truth settle gently within you. You are not weak for believing what made you feel safe. You are human, a being who seeks familiarity to avoid pain. Confirmation. Bias is not your flaw. It is your mind's way of protecting you. But from this point forward, you can love yourself enough to walk through that soft fog, to see the world with quieter eyes, fewer illusions, and more truth. Let tonight be the beginning of shedding old beliefs, like a garment that no longer fits, allowing your inner world to breathe, loosen, and return to its natural wholeness. And if your eyes are closing now, let them rest. You are learning to see the world with your own light. As we step away from part 13, where confirmation bias made the mind see only what it wished to see, we move deeper into another form of manipulation, a gentle tactic, quiet and unthreatening, yet capable of opening one inner door after another. If cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias make you adjust your beliefs, foot in the door makes you adjust your behavior. Slowly, subtly, one small step at a time, until you can no longer recognize how far you've walked from yourself. Let us enter this part with the slow rhythm of midnight breathing, like the trembling glow of a candle in a still room, without tension, only a soft whisper about how easily humans open their hearts and how easily they lose the boundaries that protect them. Foot in the door begins with something deceptively simple, a small request. Friedman and Fraser discovered in 1966 that once a person agrees to a tiny favor, they are far more likely to accept a larger one that follows. And so, what seems harmless, polite, or trivial becomes the foot that keeps the door from closing, the beginning of a path that leads to deeper control. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions, but manipulators know another truth. A person's strength lies in their boundaries, and the easiest way to break a boundary is not through force, but through a very small ask." In daily life, this begins quietly. You give someone a bit of your time, and soon they want more. You make one small concession, and suddenly it becomes difficult to refuse the next. You agree to a tiny adjustment in a relationship, and before long you are carrying much heavier burdens. You accept a vague promise and find yourself waiting longer and longer. Not because you are weak, but because the mind craves consistency. If I already did A, then doing B, even if it is larger, feels natural. Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And part of accepting ourselves is acknowledging that we are more easily guided than we realize." In relationships, foot in the door often appears in tender disguises. "Just text me when you get home" becomes "you should update me all the time." "Give me a little more attention" becomes "I must be your priority above all else." "Let me check your phone for a moment" becomes "it's normal for me to see everything." A small request, then a slightly larger one, then another, and somewhere along the way you drift further from your own center without remembering when you first stepped off the path. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One repays a teacher badly if one remains only a pupil." In toxic relationships, the manipulated does not remain a pupil. They become a servant, and it always begins with the smallest steps. Cults and extremist groups use this tactic with immaculate precision. A friendly meeting, a seemingly innocent invitation, a gentle sharing session, a harmless lesson, then small fees, more participation, increasing commitments, distancing from friends, severing family ties, and eventually surrendering one's entire life to the organization. Le Bon observed in the crowd, "To influence people, start with small certainties and end with big beliefs. The way to make someone accept the impossible is to guide them through what seems perfectly reasonable. A single step, a door always slightly open. No one is dragged inside. They walk in by themselves, little by little." Foot in the door works because the mind longs for consistency, because we fear seeming rude when the request is small, and because we underestimate the importance of first steps. Seneca wrote in On Anger, "Every emotion begins with a small seed. Manipulation begins the same way, with a seed so tiny you barely notice it until it blooms into a forest around you. To recognize the small door before it widens, observe gently. Are the requests increasing over time? Is your previous agreement being used as leverage for a larger demand? When you say no, are you made to feel selfish? Do you sense you are being led toward a place you never intended to go? If yes, it is not love, it is strategy. Some boundaries must be kept from the beginning, not because you are unreasonable, but because you understand your worth. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Your soul deserves the color of freedom, not the gradual dimming that comes from progressive control disguised as affection. And now, as the night deepens and your mind settles like calm water, let a soft truth rest beside you. You are allowed to say no, even to the smallest request. You are allowed to keep the door closed. You are allowed to refuse giving someone a foot in the door simply because you sense they will push harder. Rumi wrote, "Set your life on fire. Seek those who fan your flames. Those who truly love you do not use small asks to lead you into losing yourself. They ignite your light. They do not choke it. Tonight, as you lie down, let your heart remember, every small concession is a doorway. You do not have to open it unless it leads toward the light. Let sleep come to you like a door closing softly, leaving you safe within your own quiet truth." As we leave part 14, where a single, small, harmless door left ajar can lead to far greater concessions, we step into another landscape, wider, darker, and unsettling when we dare to look back. If foot in the door is merely the first step, then scam organizations and extremist cults are the final destination of that quiet path. A path that begins with warmth, kindness, and humanity, only to end in commitments that cost a person their sense of self. We will move through this part slowly, as though walking through a silent forest, each step carrying us deeper into the nature of the human mind and into the reason why so many good, intelligent people can be led into shadows they never imagined approaching. Every extreme journey begins with something harmless. No one wakes up and decides, "I'm going to join a dangerous cult. I'm going to obey every command of a scammer. I'm going to sacrifice myself for an organization." Instead, everything begins with small human gestures, a friendly conversation, a positive sharing session, an enthusiastic invitation, a free lesson, a simple request just to show goodwill. Gustave Le Bon wrote in the crowd, "Influence is gained by small degrees. A man does not become a fanatic at once. Influence never happens in a single stroke. It is a sequence of tiny footsteps, very small, but walking softly into the mind." Why are small things so dangerous? Because every small action creates 3 psychological currents. Incremental commitment. Each tiny step feels like an investment, and the mind hates losing what it has already invested. Consistency bias, the need to believe we are acting rightly, so we continue doing more to avoid contradicting ourselves. And accumulated false trust. If nothing bad happened in the first steps, the next steps feel safe too. Jung wrote in Man and His Symbols, "The greatest danger is always the unconscious discomfort that we refuse to see. The greatest danger is not what we notice, but what we overlook, especially the little things." Financial scams work exactly this way. They begin with harmless verification, then a small legal precaution, then a procedure, then a tiny transfer, then a warning not to tell anyone, and finally, when the trap has fully closed, you give everything you have. Not because you are greedy, not because you are naive, but because you entered a chain of commitments your mind no longer wished to break. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, "Every sin is the result of a collaboration between ignorance and desire. Scammers succeed by exploiting what you do not know and what you fear losing. Cults do the same, but with a mask of love. They begin with kindness, care, community. Come listen to this talk. We want to hear you. You are not alone anymore." Then come the steps. A meeting becomes a week, becomes a month. A small contribution becomes a large one, becomes your life savings. A prayer becomes a ritual, becomes a lifelong pledge. Jung warned in The Undiscovered Self, "When the individual loses identity in the collective, the group becomes dangerous. As you begin to lose your eye, every word spoken by the group becomes truth, even if it leads you into extremity. Why do intelligent people fall into cults? Because cults do not appeal to intelligence. They appeal to loneliness, fear, the need to belong, the desire to be understood, the longing for safety, the ache of feeling misplaced in a vast world. They do not recruit the weak. They recruit hearts searching for a place to rest. And when a tired heart longs for shelter, a small thing no longer seems suspicious. It feels comforting. Nietzsche wrote in "Thus spoke Zarathustra." In solitude, the lonely one eats himself. In company, the many eat him. When we are alone, we consume ourselves. But when we enter the wrong company, the company consumes us. Where is the breaking point from small acts to extreme commitments? It is not in a grand action. It is in the moment you stop doubting, the moment you trust them more than yourself, the moment their requests feel like obligations, the moment refusing feels like betrayal, the moment you lose the ability to question. The breaking point is not when you act extremely. It is when you believe you cannot turn back. But Marcus Aurelius reminded us in Meditations, if something is difficult for you, do not think it impossible. No door opens only one way. There is always a return even when you have walked far. Now, as you listen in the quiet of the night, let this recognition settle softly in you. It is not the large actions that lead a person astray. It is the small ones, those you dismiss, the favors you accept out of politeness, the commitments you assume are unimportant. Those are the tiny hinges on which larger shadows swing open. But gentleness also begins small. A new thought, a simple boundary, a soft no, a deeper breath. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, as you start to walk on the way appears. When you take a step, just one, your true path reveals itself. Tonight, let yourself take one small step toward the light. No force, no urgency, just a gentle step, one that does not lead you into darkness, but leads you quietly, tenderly, back to yourself. As we leave part 15, where a single small act can lead us unknowingly into much larger commitments, we arrive at a different terrain, one that moves in the opposite direction of foot in the door, yet is no less dangerous. If foot in the door begins with something small and grows larger, door in the face begins with something impossibly large, only to bring you to the real request hidden quietly behind it. A powerful shove first, a demand you are destined to refuse, and then, appearing gentle, reasonable, almost considerate, the smaller request emerges. And without knowing it, you agree, because that was the goal all along. Let us step into this part slowly, as though watching raindrops slide down a quiet window in the night. Door in the face, described by Cialdini in 1975, is a technique where a manipulator intentionally makes an excessive, unrealistic request, so you must reject it, softening you for the second request, which feels mild and fair by comparison, yet is the true target. Could you donate $500? You refuse. Then maybe 20. You agree. Or, can you finish this 40-page report tonight? No, then just 5 pages. That feels manageable. Manipulators understand something profound. Rejecting someone often leaves us with guilt, and they know how to harvest that guilt. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. Manipulators know you fear appearing unkind, so they create the adversity first to make you yield later. This tactic works because it leverages 3 psychological forces. Reciprocity. When the requester lowers their expectation, you feel obligated to meet them halfway. Contrast, the second request looks small only because the first was absurd. And guilt reduction. After refusing something big, you soothe yourself by accepting something smaller. Carl Jung observed in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Here, we avoid facing the discomfort of saying no by saying yes to the next thing. In everyday life, you may have seen this often. Salespeople offering the most expensive package first, then lowering the offer. Friends asking for an unreasonable favor before slipping in a smaller one. Partners making a request too big for you to accept, only to follow it with one that feels safer. You think you've maintained your boundary, but in truth, you have stepped precisely where they wanted you to step. In toxic relationships, the tactic appears gently, but cuts deeply. Move in with me right away. You refuse. Then spend every weekend with me. You agree. Give up all your friends. You decline. Then at least reduce a few of them. You concede. A large demand to force your refusal, then a small demand to secure your obedience. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." When you stop listening to your own intuition, you begin listening to someone else's will. Cults and extremist organizations use this tactic masterfully. They begin with extreme demands, cut ties with the outside world. When newcomers refuse, leaders soften it, then stay with us at the retreat for 3 days. Or, give us all your assets, refusal, then make a symbolic contribution. Acceptance. Gustave Le Bon wrote in The Crowd, "The will of the masses is shaped by the skillful use of illusion." Cults manipulate by creating the illusion of generosity. We are compromising for you so that you feel compelled to compromise in return. Financial scammers use it too. They might claim you owe 100 million and will face prosecution. You panic, refuse, push back. Then they offer the solution. Just pay 5 million now to temporarily block the case. It feels merciful compared to the threat, and so you pay. Seneca wrote in On the Shortness of Life, "What fools these mortals be, deceived not by force, but by persuasion. Humans are undone not by violence, but by what sounds reasonable." How do you recognize when you're being pushed hard, only for the request to be pulled back? Not by paranoia, but by gentle observation. Was the first request unrealistically large? Did the second request appear too quickly? Do you feel indebted simply for saying no? Is the smaller request truly reasonable, or merely smaller than the absurd one? If you feel, maybe I should agree so they won't be upset, pause. A choice born from guilt is no longer your choice. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You always own the option of having no opinion. You always own the option of not agreeing, not yielding, not opening the door." Now, as your breath slows and the darkness of the room gathers around you like a soft blanket, let one quiet truth settle into your chest. The second request is not always fair. It is often engineered to appear fair. You do not owe reciprocity simply because someone pretends to compromise. You do not owe agreement simply because your first refusal felt uncomfortable. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "Why are you so busy with this or that or good or bad? Pay attention to how things blend. Notice your feelings before you notice their request. Tonight, let your door close softly. Not slammed, not locked out affair, simply closed to anyone who tries to wedge their foot inside with an unreasonable demand, followed by a reasonable disguise. Let yourself fall asleep in the safety that comes from boundaries you protect with tenderness." As we leave part 16, where an oversized request is presented only to make the smaller one appear reasonable, we step into another strategy, one that is neither loud nor forceful, yet dangerously effective. The tightening of time. If foot in the door leads you into agreeing step by step, and door in the face softens you after you refuse, then time pressure leaves you without time to think, without room to retreat, without space to breathe, and therefore without the ability to see the truth. So we will enter this section slowly, in a rhythm opposite to what manipulators want from you, as if unfolding a soft piece of fabric, revealing each layer of urgency, to see that at the core of every rush lies not time itself, but a loss of connection with one's own inner voice. Time pressure is the blindfold of the mind. The human psyche has a strange vulnerability. When pushed into urgency, our ability to reason collapses. Survival mode switches on, the heartbeat speeds up, breaths shorten, thoughts scatter, and in that narrow space, all it takes is someone saying, "Hurry, decide now, only a few minutes left," or, "If you don't seize this chance, you'll regret it," for your awareness to shrink down to a single path, the path they want you to choose. Seneca wrote on the shortness of life. There is nothing the busy man is less aware of than his own life. When we rush, we forget ourselves, let alone the truth. Urgency dulls the capacity to see far. The mind has two modes: fast thinking, instinctive, emotional, reactive, and slow thinking, rational, observant, reflective. Time pressure forces you into fast thinking, a place where action replaces understanding. Daniel Kahneman called this cognitive narrowing, the shrinking of mental vision. And Jung, in Psychological Types, wrote, "Hurry is not of the devil. Hurry is the devil. Urgency is not the helper of darkness. It is the darkness." This is why scams rely on time pressure. They fabricate emergency. Your account will be locked. You're under investigation. This opportunity ends in 5 minutes. A dangerous system error occurred. When you panic, you no longer look for truth. You only seek relief from fear. And in that moment, the irrational becomes reasonable. Marcus Aurelius reminded us in Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Yet when pressed for time, we lose the space needed to ask whether our actions are right. In love, time pressure appears in familiar forms. Answer now. If you love me, choose immediately. If you don't decide, I'll assume you don't care. Such words do not come from love. They come from fear of losing control. Someone who truly loves you gives you time to understand, feel, and choose. Someone who wants to control you steals that time away. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "All truly great thoughts are conceived by walking." Clarity requires spaciousness. No one finds truth when answering under a ticking clock. In work, time pressure becomes a culture. Urgent deadlines, rushed decisions, emergency meetings, instant replies. We live in survival mode, unable to create, unable to see ahead, unable to return to ourselves. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. We do not lack time, we lose it in the urgency demanded by others." Time's pressure manipulates us so effectively because it blocks logic, triggers fear of missing out, creates the illusion of urgency, even when none exists, and fosters dependence on the person creating the rush, the one we mistakenly see as the rescuer, though they are the trap setter. To heal from urgency is to reclaim your own time. You cannot stop the world from creating pressure, but you can stop it from entering your mind. Begin with small acts. Pause 5 seconds before responding, breathe once before reacting, ask, "Do I truly need to decide now?" and allow yourself to delay anything unclear. Peace is born from the smallest pause. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The nearer a man is to calm mind, the nearer he is to strength. Calm is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength." And now, as you listen to these words in the gentle darkness of your room, let this truth touch you softly. You do not have to run, you do not have to rush, you do not need to match anyone's urgency. You have the right to reclaim your time, to breathe slower than the world expects, to see life in your own rhythm. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "When you let go of who you are, you become who you might be. When you release the urgency others impose on you, you return to the vastness within. And tonight, may every breath remind you that you are coming back to yourself, slowly, gently, and in the softest peace." From part 17, we have seen that urgency is not only the rhythm of the modern world, it is also a tool that blurs reason, pushing people to react through fear rather than understanding. And now, as your mind softens in the peaceful darkness, we take another step into the terrain where time pressure is not only a psychological mechanism, but a common tactic in scams, in love, and in the workplace, a tactic built on 3 small words: right now. Stillness surrounds you, your inner world grows gentle, and the story continues to unfold like a soft breeze passing through the soul. In scams, time pressure creates false urgency that shakes even the strongest minds. Manipulators know one truth: humans cannot think clearly when they believe time is running out. And so they always begin with lines like, "Your account is being frozen, you're about to be sued, there's a suspicious transaction, lock it immediately, only 1 room left, this offer lasts only 5 minutes. In reality, nothing is urgent at all. But the panic they trigger forces your brain from slow thinking into fast thinking, from reason to reflex, from calm to fear, from being in control to being led. Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling. But when fear appears, wisdom fades, emotion takes over, and scams succeed. Their urgency tricks strike the deepest vulnerabilities. Only 1 room left, not because rooms are rare, but because they want you to fear losing an opportunity. Transfer money now to lock your account because they want you to believe safety requires immediate obedience. This amount will be deducted in 10 minutes if you don't act because you fear loss more than deceit." Kahneman called this loss aversion. This is the only chance to invest, though no only chance exists at all. It is simply a distraction, so you cannot verify information. Seneca warned in Letters from a Stoic, "He who hurries delays the things of the spirit. When you rush, your spirit slows, and that is when you err most easily." In relationships, time pressure becomes a tool of control disguised as intensity. If you love me, answer tonight. Choose me or them right now. If you don't reply immediately, don't blame me. If you don't decide today, it's over. This is not love. It is fear wielding a clock. A person who loves you gives you space to breathe, space to understand, space to feel what is right for your heart. A controlling person does not. They fear losing power, fear you might see them clearly, fear you might rediscover your freedom. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "Love is a state in which a man sees things most decidedly as they are not." In unhealthy love, we do not see the truth, only the fear of loss. In the workplace, urgency becomes a subtle form of manipulation. Pressure to work late, pressure to take responsibilities that aren't yours, pressure so constant that you no longer have time to resist, pressure that blurs the line between dedication and exploitation. You hear, "We need it by this afternoon. If you don't finish, the whole team suffers. If you don't sign now, the project fails. The client is waiting, hurry. And over time, the frightening part is that you get used to it. You start to think it's normal. You think the pressure is just part of the job. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. Obstacles clear the mind." But when obstacles are replaced with artificial urgency, action becomes blind and people become easier to manipulate. Time pressure hits hard in all three areas because it preys on our deepest fears. In scams, the fear of losing money or safety. In love, the fear of losing someone we care about. In work, the fear of losing status, opportunity, or approval. When fear is activated, reason is silenced. The mind chases the fastest solution, not the truest one. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism." We can become addicted to the feeling of handling things immediately, addicted to the illusion of safety, addicted to the sensation of doing the right thing. Time pressure exploits that very addiction. To escape the trap of urgency, you do not fight time, you reclaim your own rhythm. Do small things. Take one deep breath before any decision. Ask, what would I do if I were not rushed? Allow yourself 30 seconds of silence. Remember that not giving an immediate answer is a perfectly correct answer, and learn to say, "I will review and respond later." Calmness is a choice, and often the strongest one you can make. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." The safest place is not the fastest decision, but the inner space you create for yourself. And now, as you listen to these words in the soft golden quiet, let your mind loosen. There is nothing to rush for. No one has the right to force your decision. No last room more important than your peace. No only opportunity worth trading your clarity for. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "When you are everywhere, you are nowhere. When you are somewhere, you are everywhere. When you chase every pressure, you lose everything. But when you choose one place, one breath, one moment, one stillness, you return to your whole self." Tonight, let yourself move slowly. Slowly enough that time stops being a pursuer and instead becomes a gentle companion. And when your eyes grow heavy, may sleep come to you, not because you are tired, but because you have finally rediscovered the true rhythm of your soul. Leaving part 18, where urgency shattered reason and led us into impulsive decisions, we step into another mechanism, subtler, quieter, and dangerous in its own distinct way. If time pressure attacks speed, anchoring bias attacks the beginning. One first number, one first impression, one first price, one first sentence. Any of these can become the anchor that chains our thoughts, pulling us back to a fixed point, even though the world outside is wide and full of choices. In this quiet night, as your mind slows and everything outside softens into the faint breath of the wind, let us walk deeper into how one starting point, just one, can shape the entire inner world of a person. Anchoring bias is the human tendency to cling to the first piece of information as if it were truth, even when it is inaccurate or irrelevant. From that anchor, we compare, we evaluate, we decide, never realizing that our mind is tied to something completely arbitrary. In Thinking, Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman wrote, "People make estimates by starting from an initial value that is adjusted to yield the final answer. However, adjustments are typically insufficient. We always adjust too little because the anchor is too strong." Price is the classic trap of anchoring. You walk into a shop and see a sign, 3,000,000 Now, 200,000. You feel like you found a bargain. But you don't know that the 3,000 George hours is arbitrary, not reflecting true value, chosen solely to anchor your perception. If the tag said 2,000 Ju, 200,000, suddenly the same number feels expensive. The number doesn't change, but the anchor does. That is why anchoring is considered one of the strongest illusions in behavioral economics. Anchoring also lives in relationships, in emotions, in first impressions, in words that make us tremble or afraid. If they treat you wonderfully in the beginning, you use that anchor to excuse their later cruelty. If they act distant at first, you assume they are cold, even if it was just their defense. If the first date is magical, you anchor the entire relationship to that moment. If they share a tragic story on day one, you anchor yourself to the role of the one who must save them. In The Essential Rumi wrote, "Set your life on fire, seek those who fan your flames." Yet under anchoring, we cling to those who extinguish our flame simply because they once lit a tiny spark. Financial scams use anchoring to create false value. VIP package 200 million. Join now for only 50 million. 20% profit per month. Today you can start with just 10 million. Real value of $100,000. Your price is $5,000. The key is that the first number is fake, but it makes every later number look reasonable. In The Crowd, Gustave Le Bon said, "The power of words is so great that few men are capable of resisting them." And 3 billion reduced to 500 million is simply language crafted to become an anchor that lowers your guard. In the workplace, anchoring appears when a boss gives an impossible deadline, then relents by adding 1 day. When your first day involves an overwhelming workload and everything afterward feels normal. When initial expectations are set so high that you live under pressure even though reality does not require it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you allow someone else to dye your mind with a false anchor, your soul will carry a color that was never meant to be yours. In politics and society, anchoring happens when the first story you hear about a person, a country, a religion, a social group, or an event becomes the fixed frame through which all future information is interpreted. Even when hundreds of new facts appear, the mind returns to that original anchor to explain everything. Nietzsche wrote in Human, all too human, "There are no facts, only interpretations. The first anchor is the strongest interpretation, and everything that follows merely reinforces it." Anchoring is powerful because the mind fears uncertainty, prefers saving energy, seeks consistency, and hates feeling ungrounded. The first thing we hear gives us a sense of certainty, not truth, just certainty. Kahneman called anchoring the mind's shortcut toward certainty. A shortcut not toward accuracy, but toward comfort. You cannot stop the world from throwing anchors at you. But you can pause and ask, why is this number the standard? Compare multiple sources instead of only one. Question your first impression. Am I under the illusion of initial fondness? Separate emotion from information. If something arrives with strong emotion, slow down and give yourself time. Anchors are strong only when we react too fast. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it. What traps you is not the information, but how you perceive it." And now, as these words flow through you like warm water, allow yourself to feel this gentle truth. The first anchor is not your destiny. You can lift it any time. You can drop a new anchor, shaped by clarity, calmness, and the truth you uncover for yourself. Rumi wrote, "When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When the soul rests in the softest place, the world becomes light enough to no longer require struggle." Tonight, let the false anchors fall away. Let yourself drift toward what is true, slowly, softly, without being pulled back by anything unworthy. And let sleep arrive like a peaceful harbor, where no anchor holds you to anything that was never meant for you. From part 19, we have walked through the world of anchors, where the first piece of information can shape the entirety of perception. And now, we step into another landscape, no less vague and no less dangerous. The landscape of false scarcity. If an anchor pulls us into a distorted point of view, false scarcity pushes us to chase things that do not truly exist. You often see phrases like, "Only 2 left, offer valid for 60 minutes, limited quantity, today only." But you know something? 90% of these are illusions. In this quiet night, as your breath softens, let this story of false scarcity drift into your mind like a gentle breeze, helping you understand why something so harmless on the surface can have the power to steer the inner world of a human being. False scarcity is a tactic used in marketing, manipulation, and scams, built upon one of our most primitive needs: the fear of missing out. We dislike the feeling of being late, losing opportunities, failing to grasp something precious. And to manipulate that fear, all one has to do is whisper a single phrase: almost gone. In Thinking Fast and Slow, Kahneman says, "What you see is all there is." When we see the words "almost gone," we believe them. We do not verify. We do not question. We react immediately, as if standing before a door that is about to shut. The interesting part is this: an object of no real value can instantly feel important simply by being labeled rare. A normal dress becomes a hot trend when marked "last one left." A meaningless course becomes special when framed as open for 24 hours only. A cheap online product becomes a golden chance when labeled extremely limited quantity. The mind assigns value based on scarcity, not on true quality. Nietzsche warned in Human, All Too Human. Sometimes things become valuable merely because they are rare. We often confuse true worth with the worth assigned by rarity. In scams, false scarcity becomes a distortion of time used to distract the rational mind. If you don't transfer money in 15 minutes, your account will be locked. Only one investment slot left. Important information. Respond now. Offer ends in 30 minutes. Here, they aren't selling a product. They are selling urgency. They make you believe you will lose something significant if you don't act immediately. In Letters from a Stoic, Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." In scams, it is our panicked imagination, not the truth, that pushes the confirm button. In relationships, false scarcity appears in painful ways. "Many people want me. I never lack options. If you don't decide now, whatever. I won't wait long." They want you to believe you are replaceable, that they have endless choices, that you are not important enough to be waited for. And that fear makes you rush, accepting what you don't want, lowering your boundaries, overcompensating, holding on to what no longer fits. Jung wrote in The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. If you don't recognize the tactic, you will think losing yourself is destiny." In workplaces, false scarcity becomes an invisible chain. There's only one chance for promotion. If you don't take this project, you won't find another like it. The team is critically understaffed. You're the only one who can do this. The truth is, opportunities are never singular. But when the fear of losing an opportunity is triggered, you overwork, accept unfair treatment, settle for a salary beneath your worth. Marcus Aurelius reminded us in Meditations, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. If you believe opportunities are scarce, you will live with a sense of lack, and that lack becomes the shape of your mind. False scarcity manipulates us because it touches our three deepest fears: the fear of loss, the fear of being left out, the fear that good things will slip away. The human mind feels the pain of loss twice as strongly as the joy of gain. We want to follow the crowd when we think everyone else is buying, and our ancient instinct whispers, "If I don't take it now, I will lose the chance to survive." False scarcity exploits all of these fears at once, but healing begins when you return to your own truth. You cannot control the market, cannot control sellers, cannot control how the world creates fear. But you can breathe deeply and ask yourself one simple question. If there were no urgency, what would I choose? You can compare prices elsewhere, give yourself time and return to the slow rhythm of your own heart. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "What you seek is seeking you. What belongs to you does not require you to run. It comes when you are clear, when you are calm, when you are quiet inside. And now, in this soft golden light, as your breath flows like still water, let this gentle truth touch you. Nothing will slip out of your hands simply because you don't chase it. A real opportunity never demands panic. Real love never forces you to fear losing it. A decent job does not use scarcity to exploit you. True scarcity is rare. False scarcity is everywhere." Tonight, let your mind step away from the words "only one left," from countdown timers, from fake promotions, from threats hidden inside urgency. Let yourself return to your own rhythm, a rhythm that has never lacked anything. And in that sense of inner abundance, sleep will come, soft as the first breath of a new day. Leaving Part 20. Where the traps of false scarcity prey on our fear of missing out, we step into a more intimate, deeper, and more tender space, the realm of false scarcity in relationships and work. If false scarcity and consumption makes us buy things we do not need, then in love and in work, it makes us lose ourselves. Here, scarcity is no longer a product or an opportunity. It becomes a person, a love, a sense of our own worth. In the quiet of the night, when everything outside has dissolved into stillness and the dim light flickers like a soft candle, we look closely at how someone, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes deliberately, creates the illusion that they are rare. So you fear losing them, and in that fear are willing to do anything just to keep them. In an unhealthy relationship, false scarcity often arrives in subtle forms. So many people want me. You don't know how many people would love to be in your place. I have plenty of options, but I chose you. If you don't appreciate me, someone else will. You don't hear these lines to learn the truth. You hear them to feel that you must try harder, hold tighter, lower yourself so you don't lose them. But the sad reality is, they are not rare. It is your confidence that becomes artificially scarce. Nietzsche once wrote in Human, All Too Human, "Love is blind. Friendship closes its eyes. Love blinds us to truth, and false scarcity makes us see fear more clearly than love. Those who create the illusion that everyone wants them are rarely confident people. They fear abandonment. They fear inadequacy. They fear having their vulnerabilities seen. And instead of healing that fear, they craft a story. I am someone everyone desires. So if you leave, you'll lose more than I will. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Acceptance is so difficult that many hide their fear beneath the mask of false rarity. But the cost of that mask is that the one who loves them must live in constant fear of losing them. When you believe someone is too special, too rare, too sought after, you begin to bend yourself, making more compromises, enduring more harm, overlooking what hurts you, suppressing your feelings to avoid upsetting them, trying to become the version they prefer. And slowly, you forget a crucial truth. You are rare too. You are someone worthy of being chosen. You carry a value no one else can replicate. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. You are not small, you are vast. No one has the right to make you feel your worth is lesser than theirs." False scarcity appears in the workplace as well, an invisible chain forged through illusions, keeping employees with the belief that opportunities are scarce, forcing overtime with the illusion that the team is understaffed, justifying low pay with "it's worse out there," encouraging you to accept unfair treatment because hundreds of people want your position. You hear lines like, "Jobs are hard to find these days. You're lucky to be here. Competition out there is brutal. Promotion opportunities are rare, so you'd better hold on." None of these are truths. They are tools of control. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. If a belief is built on nothing, it has no weight, no matter how many people repeat it. When trapped in the illusion of scarcity, you forget your own worth. You begin to believe you cannot find someone better, cannot find a better job, cannot be loved by someone else, cannot walk away because there are so few good options out there. But the truth is this: the world is not lacking what is right for you. You are simply lacking faith in yourself." Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. We are not short on time, opportunities, or love. We are short on moments of honest reflection." Escaping false scarcity does not require resistance or escape. It requires gentle clarity. Asking yourself, is this truly rare? Observing whether someone is using your fear to control you. Reminding yourself that if someone truly loves you, they do not need to make you fear losing them. Looking honestly at whether a job is using the illusion of scarcity to exploit you. Finding again the trust you once had in your own value. The first step is not leaving someone or something. It is leaving the belief that you are less worthy. And now, as your breath slows and the darkness of your room wraps around you like a soft blanket, let these words rest beside your heart. You do not need to fear losing anyone. Those who truly belong with you will never need to use scarcity to keep you close. You do not need to hold on to anyone out of fear. You do not need to bow before a job simply because it convinces you that everything else is worse. Rumi wrote, "What you seek is seeking you. What belongs to you will find you, not through threat, not through lack, but through peace." Tonight, let yourself release every illusion of scarcity. Let your heart breathe. Let your soul expand into the space it has always deserved. You are rare. You are valuable. You do not need to chase any illusion to be loved. And in that fullness, let sleep come, soft, deep, and gentle as moonlight on a still lake. Stepping out of part 21, where false scarcity in love and work made you doubt your own worth, we now enter another realm, softer on the surface but capable of bending perception for an entire lifetime. Framing manipulation, the reshaping of reality through language. If false scarcity makes you fear losing what was never real, framing manipulation makes you believe what was never true. The same truth, wrapped in different words, can transform into a completely different reality. Gentler, harsher, more convincing, or far more dangerous. In this quiet night, as your mind opens like a still lake, Let us explore how language is something weightless and invisible, can shape emotions, decisions, and the architecture of one's inner world. Framing arises whenever the same information, the same meaning, the same essence is presented in different ways, leading to completely different emotional responses. The classic example: 90% lean beef sounds healthy and appealing, while 10% fat beef, the exact same product, suddenly feels undesirable. In Thinking, Fast and Slow, Kahneman writes, different ways of presenting the same information often evoke different emotions. Words do not change the truth, but they change how your heart responds to it, and your emotions guide your decisions. This is why framing becomes a tool to distort reality. You have likely heard phrases such as, "I'm just protecting you when someone is controlling you," or "I'm just being honest when they're hurting you," or "I'm not angry, just disappointed when they want you to carry their emotional burden," or "everyone thinks so when it is only their opinion." Words can heal, but they can also manipulate. Nietzsche once wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "All things are subject to interpretation. Whichever interpretation prevails at a given time is a function of power and not truth. Truth does not always win. The stronger interpretation does." In love, framing often appears in delicate, familiar phrases. "You're too sensitive," meaning your feelings are inconvenient. "I did this because I love you," meaning love excuses any behavior. "No one understands me like you do," meaning you are responsible for their chaos. "I only want what's best for you," meaning they get to decide your life. These phrases carry unspoken commands, slipping quietly into the unconscious. Jung wrote in The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life." Words become invisible, instructions guiding your actions without your awareness. In work, framing hides injustice behind polished language. The company is struggling, so we all need to try harder, meaning unpaid over time. This is a great learning opportunity, meaning an unwanted task. This is our company culture, meaning you cannot speak up. We are a family, meaning you must sacrifice beyond reason. Framing makes unfairness appear reasonable. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If language colors your mind wrongly, your entire inner world takes on that false shade. In politics and media, framing shapes collective belief. Collateral damage instead of killing civilians, restructuring instead of layoffs, stability instead of control, protecting tradition instead of restricting change. Le Bon wrote in The Crowd, "Whoever can speak to the imagination of the masses is their master." Words guide the emotional compass of entire nations. Why is framing so powerful? Because the mind understands the world through stories, and when the story changes, our feelings change. Because humans react with emotion before logic. Because words create the frame that perception must fit into. Because language slips into the unconscious and reshapes it silently. The way out is not suspicion, but gentle awareness. Asking, is this describing the truth or interpreting it? Noticing, are they saying this to help me or to control me? Wondering if the phrasing changed, would my feelings change too? And rewriting the message in neutral language before responding. A mindful mind is not a mind that rejects language, but one that knows where the words are guiding it. Rumi wrote, "Raise your words, not voice. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder." Words can nourish, or they can mislead, depending on how we hear them. And now, as the night wraps around you like a thin blanket, breathe softly and let these truths settle gently. You do not have to believe everything others say about you. You do not have to see the world through someone else's frame. You're allowed to redefine every story that hurts you. You're allowed to say, "This is not truth. This is just framing. I will see it in my own way." In that single moment, you step out of linguistic manipulation and into the quiet freedom of awareness. Let tonight be the night you listen with your heart, not through the fearful frames others place upon their words. And let sleep come to you like a story without distortion. Only the soft truth, inviting you to rest. Stepping out of part 22, where we explored how language can bend reality, deceive emotion, and manipulate behavior, we now enter a broader and far more dangerous terrain. The realm of information overload. If framing manipulation makes you see incorrectly, then overloading. With information makes you unable to see anything at all. It is the moment when your mind is surrounded by too much data, too many choices, too many warnings, too many things you must know, until it simply shuts down. Not because you lack intelligence, but because the human brain was never designed to process the immense volume of information that defines modern life. And now, beneath the gentle dimness of the night, let us step into the nature of overload, one of the most silent psychological weapons of manipulation. Information overload occurs when you are drowned in a sea of details. Too many instructions, too many warnings, too many arguments, too many numbers, too much evidence. Your mind cannot hold it all, and as Kahneman writes in Thinking, Fast and Slow, a mind overwhelmed with information will revert to the easiest answer. When overwhelmed, the mind does not choose what is true. It chooses what is easy, not what is accurate, but what is convenient. Manipulators know this well. Overloading works because human working memory can only hold a small amount of information at once. Beyond that, it locks up. You begin to lose the ability to analyze, to question, to recognize truth, to choose wisely. This is why in bargaining or scams, manipulators talk incessantly, explain endlessly, drown you in details. They understand. A mind that can no longer think becomes a mind that can easily obey. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, "If you do not know to which port you are sailing, no wind is favorable." When the mind loses direction, any suggestion becomes a gust of wind pushing you wherever they want you to go. Overloading plays a central role in scams. Rapid talking, endless legal jargon, complicated scenarios, constant transfers between departments, threats wrapped in layers of technical detail. They do not wait for you to understand. They only need you to grow tired. And when you are tired, you do the easiest thing, follow their instructions. Le Bon wrote in The Crowd, "The mind that is overloaded ceases to resist. Exhaustion becomes compliance." In toxic relationships, overload appears as endless explanations, tangled reasons for hurtful behavior, too many contradictory stories, emotional floods that leave you spinning. They make you confused, self-doubting, eager to understand them, while forgetting that they are the ones creating the chaos. Nietzsche warned in Beyond Good and Evil, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process, he does not become a monster." Trying to make sense of someone who constantly overloads you drains your clarity until you lose yourself in the struggle. In the workplace, overload appears as control disguised as productivity. Too many tasks, too many meetings, too many scattered updates, constant notifications with no true direction. The result is a mind that can no longer think long-term, unable to see the bigger picture, trapped in the urgency of the moment. Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "Hurry is not of the devil, hurry is the devil." Overload keeps you perpetually busy. And constant busyness is a subtle form of captivity. Why is the brain so vulnerable to overload? Because it has three fundamental weaknesses. It can only process a small amount of information at once. It seeks to conserve energy, making obedience easier than analysis. And it hates uncertainty. So the more information it receives, the more likely it is to choose the quickest escape. Manipulators do not need to frighten you. They only need to exhaust you. Healing from overload is not about gathering more information. It is about creating space. Try pausing for 10 seconds when new information arrives, breaking data into small pieces, asking what here actually matters. Closing your eyes to feel your own reaction, learning to say, "Let me look at this again." Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The closer you are to calm mind, the closer you are to strength." Strength does not come from processing everything quickly, but from remaining steady in the middle of the storm of details. And now, as your breath slows and the noise of the day fades, let this gentle truth settle within you. You were never meant to hold everything at once. You do not need to understand immediately. You do not have to fight every fragment of information that enters your life. You only need one quiet moment, one small space inside yourself, one deep breath to return home to who you are. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When the soul rests in a soft place, everything becomes simpler, lighter, calmer." Tonight, let your mind rest from the weight of too much. Let sleep come as a release from the whirlpool of information, leaving only stillness, clarity, and the gentle peace quietly approaching. Stepping out of part 23, where information overload left the mind with no room left to think for itself, we descend into an even deeper layer of the very same strategy. If overloading exhausts you, then overloading within contracts, politics, and gaslighting makes you dependent. Not just paralyzed, but guided. Not just overwhelmed, but explained to. A form of manipulation so subtle that many people never realize they have been led into a maze. In the quiet of the night, with soft light brushing the walls and your breath slowing gently, we step into the intersection between confusion and control, where information no longer exists to help you understand, but to ensure that you cannot. Overloading in contracts, politics, and gaslighting occurs when someone deliberately pours in too many terms, uses tangled professional language, layers unnecessary details, creates a stream of data that gives you no time to think, hides the core truth beneath irrelevant fragments, and ultimately leaves you unable to distinguish real from false. And once you are confused, they step in and say, "Let me explain it to you." From that moment, you no longer rely on information. You rely on them. Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The capacity for directed thinking is rare. Most people are driven by unconscious influences. When others create enough noise, your conscious thinking shuts down, and you become dependent on their direction." This is why overloading in contracts becomes a doorway into commitments you would never willingly choose. You've seen contracts spanning dozens of pages, filled with legal jargon, overlapping clauses, tiny footnotes, sentences that stretch like a labyrinth. Your mind doesn't want to read. It doesn't have the energy, and that is exactly the intention. When you are drowned in complexity, your brain chooses the easiest exit. It's probably fine. They're professionals. I just want to get this over with. But in that moment of wanting to get it over with, you sign away years of your freedom. Seneca said in Letters from a Stoic, "If you would judge, understand. But overloading strips you of the ability to understand, and without understanding, judgment dissolves. The contract is designed to make you confused, so that you trust the person who claims to understand what you cannot. In politics, overloading becomes a method of governance. Countless contradictory announcements, unverifiable data, speeches packed with numbers, elaborate plans nobody can decipher, thick layers of language masking real intentions. The goal is not clarity. The goal is disorientation. When everything is noise, people cling to the nearest voice. And that voice is often the source of the noise itself. Le Bon wrote in The Crowd, "Confusion in the mind of the masses is the most effective weapon of domination. When people cannot verify, they submit. And overloading and gaslighting is the most intimate and destructive form of all. Gaslighters flood you with fragmented details, small things you can't remember, distorted stories, endless meaningless explanations, misrepresented events, arguments stacked with unnecessary layers. They talk without pause. They overwhelm your senses. They drown you in data until your mind shuts down, and when it does, they quietly conclude, 'See? You never remember anything. You're always wrong.' Nietzsche warned in Beyond Good and Evil, "Whoever fights with monsters should see to it that he himself does not become a monster." When you try to logically counter a gaslighter, you step into their maze, and their maze has no exit except exhaustion. They do not need to be right. They only need to be abundant enough that you cannot resist. Overloading in these realms is dangerous because it strikes at the deepest vulnerabilities of the brain. The mind hates gaps, so when information overwhelms it, it closes. The mind hates ambiguity, so when everything is tangled, you choose the comfort of submission. The mind saves energy by avoiding analysis, so it prefers the ease of agreement. And the mind often mistakes a lot of information for accurate information. Manipulators don't need intelligence. They only need to speak beyond your capacity to process. Escaping the maze of overloading is not about remembering every detail. It is about creating silence within yourself. Pause a conversation the moment it turns meaningless. Ask for more time. Ask simply, "What is the main point?" Ignore the fragments. Search for the core. Notice who is intentionally making things unclear. Set a boundary. "I need clarity before I continue." As Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If it is not simple, it is not true." Anything that requires 50 sentences to justify may not be true at all. And now, as your breath slows and the room grows quieter, let this gentle truth touch you. You do not need to understand everything. You do not need to chase every detail. You do not need to be afraid when someone tries to confuse you. Truth is simple. Only deception is complicated. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When the soul rests in a soft place, no amount of data can disturb it. Tonight, let your mind drift away from the noise, away from endless clauses, away from unnecessary explanations. Step into the clarity of stillness, where truth glows like a quiet drop of dew, and let sleep arrive softly, fully, untouched by any noise. Stepping out of the labyrinth of overloading, where noisy information hangs like a fog that blinds truth, we arrive at another subtle form of manipulation. Praise. But not sincere praise, not the clean clarity of genuine appreciation, not the gift that comes from a true heart, but false flattery, the kind of crafted sweetness designed to soften your guard. Open the doors of your heart too quickly, and let someone step inside you, not through sincerity, but through polished words. If overloading makes you tired, false flattery makes you soft. soft enough that you let go of your defenses without realizing it. In the slow breath of the night, let us look closely at how sweetness can sometimes be the softest blade. False flattery is praise that stops being a gift and becomes bait, the art of saying exactly what you want to hear in exchange for what they want to gain. You hear phrases like, "No one is as wonderful as you. You're the smartest person I've ever met. I've never known anyone as special as you. You're the only one who truly understands me." None of these statements are necessarily false, but they come too soon, too heavy, too perfect, and too aligned with the tender places inside you. Praise becomes a hook. Praise to win your trust. Praise to make you open the door. Praise to quiet your doubts. Nietzsche wrote in Human, All Too Human, "The most common lie is the lie one tells to oneself." False flattery doesn't make you believe in others. It makes you believe in the most idealized version of yourself reflected back to you. And when you want to believe it, you lower your guard. False flattery manipulates so easily because it touches the deepest human needs, the need to be seen, the need to be acknowledged, the need to feel special. Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But under false praise, we confuse who we truly are with who someone wants us to believe we are." In love, false flattery is often the opening act of toxic relationships, calling you destiny, comparing you favorably to every person they ever knew, promising a future within the first week, exaggerating their admiration whenever you hesitate. They place you on a pedestal so that slowly you begin wanting to stay there. You want to deserve their praise. You soften your boundaries. You allow them influence. Rumi wrote, "Where there is ruin, there is hope for a treasure." We want to be seen as a treasure, and because of that desire, we often fail to see that the treasure they seek is not you, but the power they gain over you. In work, false flattery becomes a tool to exploit. No one does this better than you. Only you can handle this task. You're the backbone of the entire team. The company is lucky to have you. Words that warm the heart become chains that bind your time, your effort, your sense of worth. Praise becomes a way to overload you with responsibility, to keep you in a harmful environment, to make you give more than you should. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." Praise means nothing when it reflects motive, not truth. In business and scams, false flattery becomes the perfect lure. "You're our VIP client. I chose you because you're smart. Only you qualify for this special rate. I could tell from your style that you're successful." None of these statements are compliments. They're triggers designed to lower your skepticism, to make you trust too quickly, to make you treat them as familiar, to make you open your wallet with ease. Le Bon wrote in the crowd, "Men are moved more by words than by the things the words signify." False flattery exploits this weakness mercilessly. You can recognize false praise by gently asking yourself, does this compliment come too early? Is it about me or about what they want from me? Is it grounded in real understanding? Do they say the same things to everyone? Does the compliment lead to a request? Real praise warms you. False praise obligates you. Healing from false flattery is not about avoiding compliments, but about returning to your own self-worth, listening slowly, sensing whether your heart feels peaceful, observing the speaker's intention, noticing if the praise makes you drop your guard. You do not need exaggerated compliments to know your value. Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." When you truly accept yourself, false praise has nowhere to land. And now, In this quiet moment, let these words move through you like gentle water. You deserve sincerity. You deserve praise that is truthful, grounded, offered from the heart. You deserve people who see you clearly, not versions of you they invent to draw you in. You do not need to open your heart because someone speaks sweetly. You can open it because someone is kind, because someone is honest, because someone loves without needing bait. Rumi wrote, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. Let yourself be drawn toward what is real, not toward what is sugar-coated. And when your heart releases the wrong kind of vigilance and keeps only the right kind, sleep will come, soft, deep, and utterly gentle." In part 25, we spoke about flattering praise, sweetness used as a tool to soften the mind and lower its defenses. Now, we step deeper into a darker variation of that mechanism. False flattery within toxic love, where sweetness is not just an addictive substance, but a system of emotional dependence. If ordinary flattery is a sugar-coated blade, then in toxic love, it becomes an emotional seesaw, lifting you impossibly high, only to drop you just as fast. And it is the distance between those 2 points that becomes the most addictive of all. In the stillness of the night, as your breath slows and your heart opens like an old wooden door, let us touch one of the most destructive psychological cycles, the cycle of love bombing and withdrawal. The lifting to the clouds phase is where love is painted with an impossible glow. You are praised endlessly, admired as if you were a miracle, treated as the only one, promised a future overflowing with sweetness, made to feel like the most extraordinary person they have ever met. This is classic love bombing. You do not notice anything strange, because as Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, love is a state in which a man sees things most decidedly as they are not. When you are excessively adored, you don't see exaggeration, you only see love. And that is the moment your heart opens widest, making you more vulnerable than ever. The early sweetness holds immense manipulative power because it sinks into the deepest parts of the soul. The need for connection, the need for validation, the need to belong, the need to feel that you have finally found safety. But as Jung wrote in The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism. No addiction is harmless, not even the addiction to the idealized version of love someone constructs for you. Then, without warning, the sweetness disappears. No signs, no hints, no explanations. One day they become distant, cold, vague, detached. Their silence grows thick like fog. The familiar warmth vanishes as if it never existed. And you, once lifted to the clouds, fall in a single drop. You fall so fast you cannot understand what is happening. You fall so hard that you assume the fault must be yours. As Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. When they withdraw their sweetness, the illusion shatters and you cling desperately to the brightest days, the only thing left to hold. From this, the cycle of dependency is born. You begin searching for the sweet version of them, blaming yourself, trying harder, shrinking yourself to regain the love of the early days, accepting less in the hope of receiving more, holding on to memories instead of reality. You believe that if you become better, things will return. If you avoid upsetting them, the sweetness will come back. If you are patient, the warmth will reappear. This is the trap. You are not in love with them, you are addicted to being lifted to the clouds. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "What you seek is seeking you." But in toxic love, what you seek is no longer the person, it is the moment they manufactured. The withdrawal is not accidental, It is a technique. The manipulator uses false flattery in cycles, lifting you to open your heart, dropping you to induce panic, giving you small doses of sweetness to make you believe things are okay again, repeating the cycle so your emotions become dependent. This is intermittent reinforcement, one of the strongest addictive mechanisms in psychology. Your mind is not addicted to them, it is addicted to the instability. To see whether your love is using false flattery to control you, gently ask yourself, do the compliments come too quickly, too frequently? Does sweetness always lead into a cold, silent phase? Do you feel you must behave perfectly to avoid losing the warmth? Do the compliments make you dependent rather than help you grow? Does the relationship make you fear losing them more than losing yourself? If the answer is yes, then you are not in love. You are in an emotional addiction. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." And if the love is not right, it will never bring truth, only doses of sweetness to hide the bitterness underneath. Healing from false flattery begins with remembering that your worth does not come from someone's praise. You do not need sugary words to know you are lovable. You do not need to be idolized to feel special. You do not need to be lifted to the clouds to deserve love. Healing begins when you can say, "I do not need cyclical affection. I do not need flattery to feel enough. I'm not returning to who they were in the past. I deserve steadiness, not peaks and valleys." As Rumi wrote, "Let yourself be drawn by the stronger pull of that which you truly love." Let yourself be pulled toward what is real, not toward stitched-together sweetness, not toward fabricated praise, not toward moments built for effect. And now, in the quiet of this room, let your heart soften in the right way. You do not need someone who lifts you high, only to let you fall. You do not need love that makes you addicted to emotion. You do not need to stay with something that was only true for the first 7 days. You deserve love that does not rise and crash like waves, that is not warm then cold, not a seesaw of extremes. You deserve a love that is gentle, steady, deep, like your own breathing. And tonight, let the sweet but hollow memories drift away, so you can return to the quiet, peaceful truth of yourself. As we leave part 26, where sweetness was used as a soft rope to bind the heart, we step into another mechanism, subtler, quieter, yet seeping just as deeply as water finding its way into the cracks of stone. Pacing and leading, the art of mirroring and then guiding. If false flattery makes you open the door because your ego has been soothed, then pacing and leading makes you open it because you believe the other person is like you. And human beings always trust, unconsciously, those who seem similar. In this deep and quiet night, as each breath drifts slowly like ripples gliding across a still lake, let us step into one of the most seductive techniques in manipulative psychology. Pacing is the first stage. The manipulator mirrors you gently, your speaking pace, the way you sit, the rhythm of your breathing, your choice of words, even your emotional cadence. If you speak slowly, they soften their tone. If you are shy, they become gentle. If you are quiet, they become deep and reflective, as if they understand you to your core, and you begin to feel, "This person fits me so well. We are so alike. I feel understood." There is such a strange connection. But sometimes that connection is not souls meeting. It is technique. Carl Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." You think you are witnessing chemistry, but sometimes it is only a deliberate reflection. Humans are drawn to similarity because the brain is programmed to trust the familiar. Similarity feels safe. It accelerates empathy. It creates a sense of belonging. As Gustave Le Bon wrote in The Crowd, we are led by the familiar far more than by the true. Pacing manufactures that familiarity. And once enough similarity has been created, once your heart has opened, once you believe there is a shared rhythm between you, they shift into leading, the act of guiding. At first, it is subtle, a suggestion, a small decision, a gentle shift in habit, a new angle to consider. You receive it naturally because deep down you think, this person understands me, so they must be right. Then the guidance grows. Your thoughts, your feelings, your choices, your actions, even your relationships begin to shift. The control does not come through pressure or threats or flattery. It comes through similarity. In toxic love, this often unfolds in a predictable pattern. First, they resemble you in uncanny ways. Same interests, same viewpoints, same wounds, same dreams, same attitude toward life. You feel as though you have found a soulmate. Then, slowly, they begin to lead you. Softly at first. Try thinking this way. I believe this is better for you. I understand you. Trust me. But over time, guidance becomes control. You should avoid talking to them. I know you better than you know yourself. You're doing it wrong. Just follow me. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, he who fights with monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster. But in toxic love, you never get the chance to fight because you do not realize the monster is wearing a mask shaped like your own soul. Pacing and leading appears at work too. The colleague who mirrors your style, the manager who synchronizes emotionally before assigning more work, the salesperson who talks just like you, then persuades you to buy something you do not need. At first, they create comfort. We're alike. Then they lead you toward their goal. Sign this, take this, do this. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and when someone colors your thoughts with those that seem to be your own, you may lose your true shade without realizing it. This technique is dangerous because it creates the illusion of voluntary choice, bypasses logic, and speaks directly to the unconscious, builds trust through connection, and unfolds so slowly you cannot detect the shift. Yet it subtly alters the trajectory of your thinking. To recognize when pacing and leading is being used on you, watch for gentle signals. They become too similar too quickly. They agree with you like a mirror at first, then gradually shift into directing you. They begin making decisions you once made alone. You find yourself doing things that do not feel like you, though you cannot explain why. Remember, real kindred spirits do not need to imitate you. They remain themselves while allowing you to be yourself, and harmony arises without replication. Healing from invisible guidance means returning to your own rhythm. Breathe slowly before deciding. Gently ask, is this my thought or theirs? Notice whether you follow someone too easily. Remember what you used to believe, want, and choose, and listen again for the quiet voice inside. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, the only real purpose of our existence is to kindle the light in the darkness of mere being. That light is your own awareness, not one borrowed or guided by someone else. And now in the soft darkness of this room, as your eyes begin to grow heavy, let these words touch you like a quiet whisper. You do not need anyone to lead you. You may walk beside someone, love someone, listen to someone, but you do not need to be directed. No one is exactly like you, and that is the beauty of it. You do not need a mirror of yourself. You need someone real, and you also need to be real to yourself. Tonight, let every external guidance drift away. Let your own rhythm rise gently, and let sleep come, light as the breath of the freedom within you. Leaving part 27, where we explored pacing and leading as a technique of mirroring and guiding in communication, and stepping into part 28, everything becomes more personal, deeper, and more painful. Because in toxic love and in the darker forms of leadership, pacing and leading is not merely a technique, it becomes the key that opens the door to your heart, only to later turn that heart into a place where they install their rules. If in part 27, synchronization was used to create connection, then here it is used to create dependence. In the quiet of the night, as your mind settles like still water untouched by a single ripple, let us look into this soft yet profoundly dangerous form of power. In unhealthy relationships, manipulators often begin with words such as, "I understand you so well because I'm just like you. I've been through exactly what you're going through, so trust me. I know your feelings because I feel the same. We're so similar." At first, it feels comforting. You feel understood, connected, open. Yet as Carl Jung once wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, we meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises. Sometimes the other person is not truly like you. They are wearing a mask that reflects you. And when you believe that mask, your door opens. That is pacing. After they succeed in being like you, synchronization slowly shifts into leading. Emotional leadership disguised as guidance. "You should do this because I understand you. Trust me, I know what's best for you. Don't overthink, I'm right. Only I understand you, so listen to me." These gentle suggestions turn into direction, then into control, controlling your choices, your relationships with others, your emotions, your worldview, even the way you see yourself. Nietzsche warned in Beyond Good and Evil, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. And here, the tribe is not a crowd, it is the one person you trusted in the wrong way. Pacing and leading in toxic love creates an emotional dependency loop. First, synchronization. They resemble you, understand you, love you in the way you have always longed for. Then gentle leading. Suggestions, nudges, subtle attempts to shape you. Then control. Decisions made for you with the justification that they know you better than you know yourself. Then dependency, because you believe no one understands you the way they do. This is the most dangerous point. Pacing and leading in toxic love does not create union, it creates dissolution. The dissolving of your voice, your boundaries, your choices, your inner values. Gustave Le Bon wrote in The Crowd, "To be led is to be imprisoned in another's thought. And once you are led, you are locked inside someone else's mind." This technique appears in dark leadership as well. At first, such leaders speak as though they are just like you. "I was once like you. We share the same goals. I understand your struggles because I've gone through them too." You feel they are close, empathetic, companion-like. Then leading arrives. "We all need to sacrifice a little. I think you should work extra hours. I trust you to take on this additional responsibility. Since I overcame it, you should be able to as well." What begins as guidance ends as pressure, then obligation. Marcus Aurelius said in Meditations, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When a leader colors your mind with a fabricated sense of similarity, you may lose your true color without realizing it. This technique is so effective because it exploits 3 deep psychological mechanisms. Mirror bias, the tendency to trust those who seem like us. Authority, bias, the belief that someone who understands us must be right. Emotional bond, the connection that makes us obey unconsciously. Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The most dangerous psychological mistake is the projection of the personal shadow onto another. When you see yourself in someone else, you may give them a power they do not deserve." Signs that you are experiencing pacing and leading in toxic love or harmful leadership include: the other person seems perfectly similar to you unusually quickly. They agree with you excessively at the beginning. Synchronization disappears once you depend on them. Their suggestions slowly become demands. You feel indebted because of their initial understanding. You struggle to say no because they know you too well. You live according to their direction rather than your own emotions. If many answers are yes, you are not being led, you are being led away from yourself. Healing does not require rejecting empathy or avoiding connection. It simply means keeping your own rhythm, not rushing to trust perfect similarity, distinguishing guidance from control, asking yourself, whose thought is this? And returning to your own voice. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "Let the waters settle, and you will see the moon and the stars mirrored in your own being. When the mind becomes still, you will see truth reflected from within, not from someone who tries to imitate you." And now, in the warm quiet of the night, let these words drift through you like a deep breath. You do not need someone to resemble you to understand you. You do not need someone to lead you to find your way. You do not need a counterfeit soulmate. You do not need a leader who uses similarity as a chain. You are enough to guide yourself. You are enough to understand yourself. You are enough to walk in the rhythm that belongs only to you. Tonight, let softness settle over you like mist. Let your heart reclaim the voice that was once led too far away. And let sleep come, natural, unguided, unshaped, pure as inner peace itself. Leaving part 28, where synchronization and subtle guiding became tools to shape your emotions, we now step into an even softer, quieter, and far deeper form of manipulation. Guilt seeding. The act of planting guilt like a hidden seed. If pacing and leading makes you follow without realizing it, then guilt seeding makes you lead yourself into feeling wrong. No accusations are needed, no raised voice, no direct criticism. Just a gentle sentence, a half-finished look, a suggestion light as the wind brushing the surface of water. Yet it plants something inside you, a seed that grows into guilt, silent and stealthy, clinging to every corridor of your mind. And now, in the gentle darkness of the night, as your breath moves through you like thin mist, let us look at that seed, to understand it, and through that, free yourself. Unlike direct blame, guilt seeding never says you're wrong. It says, "I don't blame you. You probably had your reasons," or "It's okay. Maybe I just expected too much," or "I guess you're busier than I thought," or "I don't want to make things difficult for you." These sentences do not accuse you, yet they make you feel at fault. As Carl Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, shame is a soul-eating emotion. Guilt and shame are like tiny worms. No one sees them, yet they devour you from within. Guilt seeding is powerful because it hits the most vulnerable parts of the human psyche. The desire to be a good person, the fear of being abandoned, the tendency toward excessive empathy, and the belief that I must be responsible for other people's emotions. Manipulators know this well. Direct blame sparks resistance. But guilt seeding makes you punish yourself. Nietzsche said in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You are your own worst enemy." And in guilt seeding, this becomes painfully true. You become the one who binds yourself with guilt that someone else planted. In toxic relationships, manipulators rarely say, "You hurt me." Instead, they say, "I'm okay, I'm sure you had your reasons, or I know you didn't mean it. I'm just a little sad, or I won't ask anymore. I don't want to bother you." These sentences make you feel careless, inattentive, not good enough. Rumi wrote in The Essential Rumi, "Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? But in toxic love, you remain in the prison of guilt, not because the door is closed, but because you lock yourself in. When guilt takes root, you become easier to control. Manipulators don't need to scold you. They only need to make you feel indebted. And when you feel indebted, you apologize more, compromise more, shrink your needs, put them first, let go of your boundaries. You try to make up for a mistake you didn't even commit. Guilt seeding turns you into your own watchdog, not because you're wrong, but because you believe you are wrong. Toxic leadership uses the same tactic. "I know you tried. Maybe you're just not capable enough," or "It's okay. I'll take the blame. Don't worry, or I guess I was wrong to trust you." No anger, just disappointment. And disappointment wounds far more deeply than anger. Marcus Aurelius said in Meditations, "The opinion of others should not disturb your inner peace." But guilt seeding does not use opinion, it uses disappointment. And the disappointment of someone you respect becomes the poison that makes you forget yourself. In families, guilt seeding becomes generational inheritance. We're not angry, just sad. Everything we did was for you, and you turned out like this. We sacrificed so much. Do you know that? No one blames you outright, yet you feel guilty even when you've done nothing wrong. Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment than the unlived life of the parent. What parents never lived, they plant into their children, and those children grow up carrying guilt that was never theirs." Guilt seeding is difficult to resist because there is no clear accuser. Guilt moves inward rather than outward. Manipulators appear kind, and the guilt bypasses thought and goes straight into emotion, and emotion is stronger than logic. To heal from guilt seeding, you must separate responsibility from someone else's feelings. Ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong? Is this their emotion or mine? Are they stating facts or implying something? If someone else were in my position, would they feel guilty? Are they using disappointment to control me? Remember, you are not responsible for the emotions of others. You are responsible only for your actions. Nietzsche wrote in The Gay Science, "Become who you are." And you cannot become who you are if you live your life trying to repay the emotional debts others placed on your shoulders. Now, as the darkness in your room softens and your eyes begin to close like wooden doors at the end of a long day, let these words settle into you like a final breath. You are not wrong just because someone suggests it. You're not guilty just because someone looks sad. You're not responsible for tears that do not belong to you. You do not have to carry the emotions of the world. You are allowed to be light. You are allowed to be calm. You are allowed to breathe in the space that belongs to you. And tonight, let the seeds of guilt that once sprouted within you fall away like dried leaves. Light, quiet, drifting out of your life. Return to the pure, original peace of your own soul, where no one can plant guilt in you unless you allow it, and you can choose not to from this very moment. Leaving part 29, where guilt was planted silently into the mind like poisonous seeds, we step into the final chapter of this journey. The false consensus effect, the illusion that everyone thinks so, everyone agrees, everyone does this, everyone is like that. If guilt seeding makes you believe you are wrong, then the false consensus effect makes you believe that everyone else is different from you and you are the only one who does not belong. It is an illusion so powerful that many people lose their true voice simply because they believe the crowd is always right, and they are not. In this quiet night, with the outer world already softened into stillness, let us listen to the gentle footsteps of this illusion, so we may understand it and release it as lightly as letting a dry leaf fall onto water. The false consensus effect appears when someone makes you believe everyone thinks you're wrong, or everyone does it this way, or everyone agrees. You're the only exception, or all of them side with me. Only you disagree. These statements are not information. They are invisible ropes tightening around your confidence. Gustave Le Bon wrote in the crowd, "An individual immersed for some time in a crowd soon finds himself in a special state which much resembles the state of fascination. When we believe we stand before a crowd, we easily fall under its spell and forget our inner voice. The illusion works because the brain has natural traps. The social survival instinct. Our ancestors needed to belong to survive, so we fear being excluded even when the group is imaginary. The instinct to avoid conflict, agreeing with the majority, feels safer, and the deep belief that a crowd cannot be wrong. But Marcus Aurelius reminded in Meditations, the opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. 10,000 opinions do not turn wrong into right. They only make you feel more alone. The frightening truth is that the crowd often doesn't exist. All it takes is, everyone praised me, or your friends also think you're too sensitive, or your co-workers say you make mistakes, or the whole family thinks you're selfish. You do not verify. You do not ask. Because the shame of being opposed by everyone is stronger than the desire to know the truth. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The larger the group, the more unconscious its behavior." Whether the crowd is real or imaginary, the moment you feel outnumbered, you shrink. In toxic love, manipulators weaponize the false consensus effect. My exes weren't complicated like you. My friends also think you overreact. Everyone sees you're wrong, only you interpret things negatively. The goal is not to convey truth. It is to make you believe you are the odd one out. Different, wrong. Wrong must change. Change, obedience. Nietzsche wrote in Human, All Too Human, the individual has always had to fight to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. In toxic love, that tribe may be only two beings, the manipulator and the imaginary crowd they conjure to corner your self-worth. In harmful leadership, group pressure is twisted into a tool that bends your spine. The whole team is staying late. Only you aren't. Everyone agrees with this direction. Everyone thinks you're not trying hard enough. You do not want to be the resistant one. You do not want to be cast out. You want to belong. So you nod, even when your soul whispers, no. Marcus Aurelius warned, the object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. Being with the crowd does not mean being right. Sometimes standing alone is the only sane choice. In politics, media, and society, the effect becomes mass manipulation. The whole country supports this. Everyone knows this is the right path. No one disagrees. With just these phrases, people feel that if they oppose, they become the exception, and exceptions are wrong. Le Bon wrote, "Whoever can supply the illusions needed by the masses is easily their master. Truth is unnecessary, illusion is enough, and the crowd will follow." The false consensus effect controls because people fear being different, judge themselves through imagined social eyes. mistake crowds for safety, and absorb repeated misinformation without questioning it. To heal, you do not need to fight the crowd. You only need to return to one person, yourself. Ask gently, is this truly everyone's opinion, or is one person placing a crowd upon my shoulders? If I stood alone, would I still believe this? Am I silent because I agree, or because I'm afraid? Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The greatest privilege is not standing with the crowd. It is standing as yourself." And now, as your eyes grow heavier and your room softens into velvet light, let these final words touch you like warm water. You do not need to obey because everyone thinks so. You do not need to silence your voice to blend into an imaginary crowd. You do not need to fear being different. Your difference is the way your soul protects its own truth. Rumi wrote, "When you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. When you act from your own soul, not from the crowd, a quiet river moves inside you, a gentle joy that no one can take away." Tonight, let yourself fall softly. Let every false crowd dissolve like smoke. Let only one voice remain, the quiet one, the true one, the one that belongs to you. And in that voice, sleep will come, soft, deep, peaceful as the very first breath